stuck in the side, finding wall. That's brilliant. And Kenny S again up close. Oh my goodness, Kenny S.
Everyone chasing down, gets a trap, and the knife comes in. Simple, of course, stabs him straight in the chest.
So aggressive play. Dennis catches him off. That's ungodly from Dennis.
Oh my God, that awareness, the timing works out perfectly. Just as they tell him.
Hello everybody and welcome to Drop the Bomb week number 2. We've had more than a day to set it up, so we're ready to roll, and we've got a guest with us. We brought YNK immediately on board. Now before I get to that, I have to mention the vaping on stream, a little bit obnoxious, so we gave something, Henry, you know, you're a little more familiar with holding long cylindrical objects.
I asked you to go get me a microphone, and I said, Matt, just make it as least phallic as possible, but you came back with this, so it's nice.
It's a one-to-one model, in case you're wondering. It's just so you know.
I think, yeah, so this the vaping issue should be sorted this week. That was a bit obnoxious. We listened to it back, and it was a bit loud. So that's going to be fixed. We're always working to make things better.
Right. Janko, how are you?
I'm great. Here obviously doing ProLeague, so I figured like why not make myself useful a little bit, have some fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a day off today.
Well, and bringing you in, you've also demoted me to this lovely stool. It has Marilyn Monroe's face on it, and truth be told, I've always wanted her to sit on my face, but this time it's the other way around.
A dead woman.
I mean, we don't have to bring in the fact that she's dead, Henry.
Okay.
I'm just saying straight up, you know, it's one of those things.
Right.
Look, as Janko mentioned, we have been in Cologne. It's been awesome. It's a pretty serene city, and ProLeague's kicked off. We've got lots to talk about, some debuts from teams. Tom's been out running around, showing off the finer side of the city, and absolutely, like I said, it is a serene city. It's very tranquil in the sense that it's got a nice open water. I'm a big fan of water in cities. I'm a green space kind of guy, and it's been lovely, guys. I think we've had a good experience here so far, and not only that, this week, we also had Gamescom going on, which I didn't set a foot in because I've been told that it is absolutely chaotic.
I like to call it boozecom. It seems like everyone's just like, they go for a bit of games, and then everyone seems to be going to parties every single night.
That's true, actually. I worked at Gamescom last year. There was that CS tournament from ESL, and basically it was, you know, a couple of games of Counter-Strike getting in between our drinking.
Yeah,
because it gets really insane. You have everyone there, a bunch of people from the industry, so it's a chance to like, you know, see some people and talk with some people who are not necessarily just related to CS.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. I've worked this event for since 2010. So the last 6 years I've been working this in my last job, and it always just was the most hellish event, just because it's awesome. Like it gets 350,000 people coming every time, right? But walking up and down those halls,
what have I done? I'm sorry.
What have you done?
I'm sorry.
Walking up and down the halls, as you can see in the pictures now, it's insanely busy there, and it's really hot in the summer as well. So it's like it's really cool to see everyone like loving it and like enjoying the games. And we've got a massive esports presence this year. But
yeah,
for
that's
me,
right.
For me, I didn't step foot in there. I'm not gonna lie, but I've done my time at Gamescom, so I can safely say I'm fine.
Oddly enough, I've never been, but didn't get a chance to really go. I did say I avoided it. I would have liked to have gone for at least one of the days. It is a very cool festival. I mean, let's face it, at the bottom of it, you strip esports away, we're all gamers at heart anyway, so it's very cool to see a collective sort of, I guess, common, you know, what am I trying to say here? Enjoyment, hobby, or passion.
It's like, even though I had some time off last year to walk around a little bit with the guys, and you know, let's say the Blizzard Hall, all the Blizzard booths and everything, that looks amazing. We're all fans of some other games, even though if we just play them casually. So seeing some of that stuff is pretty cool.
Yeah, I've got cool the cathedral in the background there, by the way. It's the coolest Gothic cathedral I've ever seen in terms of architecture.
Yeah, the city's really beautiful. We're here for like 2 months. Like it's a really nice place to be. It's very chill, very friendly. I like being here. So it's the perfect city location.
Just while we're on the topic of Gamescom, obviously, like we said, I didn't set foot in there. It is chaotic. I would have liked, if I could have gone, I would have gone on the press day, so we could have had some chance to walk around and stuff. Games you're looking forward to? Anything coming out that's on the radar? I think Final Fantasy for me. I still want to sit down. It's still on my bucket list, that I want to play through all the Final Fantasy
games anymore. I used to work in the games industry. Like the thing is, I've always loved Counter-Strike and esports and stuff, but that's always been my main focus. It's the only game I play really. So in terms of being a gamer, like I like the event and I like being there and I like the vibe of it, but I can't even tell you what game is coming out.
You just go for the cosplay.
Oh, and what's the one with the mechs? The multiplayer one last year, EA game.
What, Metal Gear Solid?
No, the
Titanfall.
What am I saying?
Titanfall
Yeah,
2,
Titanfall, that's it. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not really mechs. I was thinking Hawken when you said that.
And
that was
Battlefield 1
independent.
as well. That's always
Battlefield 1 looks very cool, and someone else showed me a game, Squads. I don't know if they were set up and present at Gamescom or not, but the Squad, which was built off one of the Unreal 4 engine, I think it was, which is the Battlefield engine as well. So it's that looks really cool. But Battlefield 1 looks like it'd be a lot of fun. Apparently there was a 6-hour line just to try the game.
Imagine that. That's what I did.
And you get what, 5 minutes?
I thought 15 maybe.
Okay.
So this thing I don't really get is about these conventions really. Like you go and you spend your whole day just queuing to play a game that's going to come out anyway. I'm just like, yeah, but you get to play for 15 minutes. That's going to make you want to play it more. You're going to buy it anyway if you're queuing up. So why don't you just wait and then it will come out and you can play.
But you have VIP access, Henry, so you can just cut through the
I
line.
don't give a fuck really. But I'm just saying, if I was a punter, I probably wouldn't queue up. I just don't see the appeal. But obviously, some people love it. I love that passion.
So
but,
what you recommend to people is first get famous like me, then go to Gamescom. Because going as a pleb just isn't worth it.
I think it's cool either way.
Speaking of VIP stuff, we actually went to the Twitch party on Saturday.
You guys did?
You were there.
You were there.
You made an appearance, Matt.
I like how Matt considers himself not being at the party if he's not drinking alcohol. Like I drank water, guys. It's almost as like I wasn't there.
Okay, let's time out. I had first off, producer Tom sold me a dummy because he went to the party with the keys. So he made me go to the party. If it weren't for Tom, I wouldn't have been there at all.
It was the last ditch attempt to make you come.
I knew there was a conspiracy behind it. I'm not going to lie. and I went there, and I got there, and I tried to leave right away, but I ended up talking to a few people and had a drink of water. And
all right. Well, should I give you my overview? Of
I would love to hear it because I didn't see it until the next morning.
Anyone who has never been to a Twitch party before, there's obviously there is public access as well, but we have like a veil where we go behind. It's like the VIP place, right? That's where you see all the people like us, the people that work in the esports industry. We kind of let our hair down a little bit, and we kind of it's kind of our real personalities instead of what you see on camera. So it's quite interesting to see how people operate when they've been drinking a little bit. I think the highlight for me was
it's interesting for me now because normally I'm the guy that doesn't remember, but now that I've gone for this sober approach, it's very interesting actually.
So my highlight of that night was I had a few gin and tonics, so I've had a long week.
We all had a few drinks.
We've all had a few drinks, and I was just having a little dance with Machine. You know how it is. Just having he's a good friend of mine. Having a little dance and just get a bit of attention. You know how it is. Like this face and these dance moves.
Anyone who's at Malmo after party?
It's going to get attention.
Anyone who was in Malmo knows all about it.
Jesus. And all of a sudden, I found myself I was trying to do a bit of breakdancing on the floor. I'm on my back, and then Alex is. I think the term is called slut dropping. If you're familiar with that,
Tell me more. This sounds like something I can get behind.
So in regards to your face sitting pretty much.
Yeah, so I'm lying on the floor wide to receive. I'm like that, and then he is lowering his backside onto my face repeatedly in time to the music, and I think it was captured on camera, and it's never going to see the internet, but it does exist. So. A little bit of an inside.
Right. Anyone who can tranquilize Alex, I'm assuming it's probably on his phone, and get me that footage, I'll give you some stuff that we have plus a little bit of money on the side. So get me that footage.
But it's just basically, normally when we do these kind of events, we do like a big gaming tournament, like you would say that we did the major. At the end of the tournament, we do the after party as well. All the players, all the talent comes along. This one's different, right? Because Gamescom runs till Sunday, so the party was on Saturday night, and then everyone had to go to work hungover out of their fucking ass on Sunday.
To be fair,
that event did not run.
I came home and I actually did something very Canadian for any Canadians that are watching. I watched the Tragically Hip's last concert, which was a bit emotional because Gord Downing diagnosed with I can't remember the technical name, but basically a tumor in his brain. He's basically been given a year timeline. They just released an album they were planning on continuing on anyway. I won't go into it. Anyone knows about them. So I watched them. They were as a child, one of the first bands I got into, and they mean a lot to Canadian music and Canadians in general. And as I was watching that, it was because of the time difference, obviously, to Canada. It was about 6 a.m. when it ended, and just when I thought, all right, I'll turn this off and actually go to sleep, I heard this on the window, and Tom was outside with his shirt off. And then I didn't see Henry for another 2 hours trying to get into the apartment. So, yeah, you guys certainly were up for a while.
It was a good night overall. But, just a little bit of an insight. We're trying to kind of give some information to our life behind the camera as well, I kind of see how that all goes down. But
this is when people are always like, I want, those guys are, don't be like us.
Yeah, you don't want to end up like this.
Especially like Matt.
No, Matt's trying to turn over a new leaf. He was
trying the keyword, hashtag new sadochist.
Hashtag old sadochist. Hashtag back to basics.
Okay, so you were ruined, saved. VBAC shots here and there.
Reference game?
Yeah.
Now you believe.
Right then, so what we've been doing this week, we've been doing ProLeague, right?
Yeah,
we've just come back from the player break, which has been only 2 weeks of the year the players actually take an official vacation, right? So everyone's been away, everyone's been doing their holidays, and we came back and ProLeague was the first big tournament we've seen in terms of like competition online, and it's been pretty interesting, I would say, in terms of the form we've seen.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it started off, let's not forget this player break. One of the things, if you didn't see last week's episode, it's on YouTube now. We're still working on the iTunes side of things. Apparently there's some verification things you have to do. We haven't jumped through those hoops yet. We'll get there, I promise. When we're drinking less, that's what we'll do. So yeah, if you go there, you can kind of, we talked about this player break and how it kind of stimulated these roster changes, and it isn't off-season required. Karn thought maybe 2 a year would be better, but the point is, we came into this season with some big changes. We've started to see the first of them, and the one that I want to talk about the most, because we haven't really seen the others play all that much yet. Obviously, Godsend's not in Pro League, because they, with the roster change, had to play Virtus Pro, who made it back in, and we'll talk about Virtus Pro. But the one I want to talk about is the Alu change in FaZe.
Yeah, sure. That's been... It was. I was a little bit apprehensive to give my real thoughts on it. I wanted to see them play before I kind of said, well, whether this is going to work out. But when you did see them play, like even after day one, they were winning games. And okay, like we always talk about this honeymoon period. And like you have that ability. It was like when that Envious roster first came to light when they went to IEM for the first time. There wasn't too much method to the madness. They were just completely lights out in terms of the skill, and they were running very default approaches and stuff. But it's not really the case with FaZe from what I've seen so far. He seems to slot into that roster really nicely. Like they needed that superstar or potential. I feel like Fox. Like I feel like he got a bit too much stick for his performances. I think he was always a good player. He was never ever going to be a top 10 AWP or anything like that, but he did enough to say like it's fine, right? But Alu coming in, it seems to revitalise the lineup, and they actually look strong right now. They're 5-1 in Pro League. They've dropped one map so far.
Yeah,
7-1.
7-1. Yeah, they got 2-1
yeah.
last night. That's right. Yeah.
So that's kind of nuts. And like from a team that's been mediocre at best, like just about in the top 10, and never really having consistent results. This is looking like they're refreshed and they're ready to go.
Your thoughts, obviously, Janko, you're pretty good at breaking down. You've been on the desk for all those games. So.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, I'm not necessarily impressed by their play. I'm impressed by their score, but it's just a matter of them playing better than their opponents this early on. And we talked about it and said that now when they actually have a little break, if they get a week or two maybe where they don't have any officials, that they can really put some work in, I think that they're going to be even better. But they've been basically just outperforming their opponents individually, I feel like, in the beginning.
Yeah, it's a nice overall package, I think. I'm really excited to see what they can actually bring to a LAN environment. I think that's going to be the real test. Obviously, we always say that online CS, very unpredictable. It's hard to really gauge where they're at with this break coming in. It seems like one of the teams that hasn't been heavily affected by it. We'll kind of go on a bit further into the other teams, but some of them are looking very poor. Just in terms of like the fundamentals there, in terms of the approach to the maps, is just landing shots and actually having the crossfires and that kind of synergy. It seems like there's definitely some rust that needs to be shaken off before they can actually start digging their heels into this actual CS landscape.
Individually, look, FaZe, we've never thought of it as a tactical team. They obviously brought in Ruben as a coach. We'll talk about coaches. Obviously, that's the big news.
That's the big one.
Hence why 1K is here. We want to get his opinions as well. Look, individually, they're playing excellent. AZ, I don't think has hit the level of Cluj yet, but Jacob was top fragging. The thing that I've noticed as well is Alu's getting aggressive on this team. Is that going back to more the mouse sports era when he was playing and they had, kind of gave him that freedom? Because at NIP, I don't really think they ever did.
Yeah, I think that's the way Alu wants to play in general. I think that at NIP he was kind of held back a little bit simply because, he was willing to sacrifice that for what the team wanted from him, but maybe wasn't utilized in the best way. Probably one of the reasons why he decided to leave the team. So now he can, do what he's comfortable with, and I think that's one of the main reasons, as Henry pointed out, why he has been performing better than we've seen from him.
I think they brought him in, they said to him, look, we obviously want you in the team, we want you to be comfortable, we want you to have the roles you want to do, and you can see it, like when he gets decent spawns, like on maps like Cash, for example, he's going to Squeaky Door, he's going to A main, he's going towards B storage, he feels happier, it's a risk obviously obviously you could die, and it's a little bit of a high risk, high reward sort of situation, but he's hitting most of these shots, he actually looks like he's actually confident in his ability. Like I feel like in NRP, there's so much pressure on his shoulders, right? He's the only Finn in the lineup, he's like the newest standing member when Fifth Lauren left and all that stuff, or Michael Elliott left, and it was a really difficult time for him, I think.
I think that's an interesting point as well. When you're the fifth member of NIP after a roster change, and they weren't on their 87-0 tier, but they were still coming off of success, winning a major not too far forward of that or previous to that before Flaren left. That was just the scapegoat, wasn't it? Like, fifth player comes in, that's the problem, obviously. It wasn't like that with Flaren. Obviously, there was problems, but it seemed like the scapegoat that kind of put pressure on Alu in that way, maybe?
They tried to help him out. Like they brought Natu in, another Finn as well, to kind of help him have some support. He wasn't just the only Finnish guy within the team, but that seemed to make things like almost worse in a way. It seemed like, from what I heard, Natu didn't have as much control as he would have liked. He was just there kind of like as like a consultant almost. He didn't really have that much control over the team. He could give his input in, but whether they listened to it was arbitrary at the end of the day. It didn't seem like they actually were letting him have full control of the team. It felt like that era of NIP, that's when it really got to the slump period, that's when they couldn't really get out of the trap.
Released this week, we hinted at it on the show last week as well, though, that the original roster shuffle we heard was JW was out. We originally heard NIP. We don't know anything about that. Maybe we'll find out more about that in the future. But we heard Rain was going to be coming in, and that was confirmed by Vugo, who also has moved into management. There's been lots going on that's kind of trickled on and affect the aftershock of that first roster change. With that said, that would entail perhaps that Rain was looking to get out of FaZe. Is that something, and everyone's kind of gone with the scapegoat of Venton, et cetera, that without coaching, Venton maybe doesn't execute the in-game leader? Is that something that could still happen? And if it's something that can still happen, is it something that could affect FaZe sort of internally, that he's not 100% committed?
I think while all the roster swaps were still, not finalized, I think that ideally Fnatic wanted Rain to be in the team instead of probably either Venton or Lekro, right? And then you would have it's all of Twist and Rain
personally.
And that's an insane lineup right there, right? Rain, an extremely solid player, good aim, good mechanics, and also a really intelligent player, right? But that couldn't happen for some reason, probably contracts, to have a buyout, right? So at that point, I figured that FaZe then looked at, okay, how could they improve their own lineup? Then Alu comes in, and you're left with the Fnatic Godsend swap pretty much, because in all of that, then JW figures that it's maybe better for him to go with the rest of the players towards Godsend, because they maybe needed an extra player, since the whole trifecta of Rain not going to Fnatic means Fnatic needs maybe Lekro, meaning they need JW from Fnatic, right?
Yeah.
So.
And that goes back to the point as well, NIP not getting any of this action and when the switch up at all. That's a discussion we had last week, but still, it does raise the question. I think we've got a topic coming up soon about them being left out in the whole thing and what was Disco Doplin's future was with that lineup.
Well, exactly, and that was actually tweeted to us. So in case you guys missed it, just so you know, we did close it down. I may look for some extra ones that have come in late, but I'm not guaranteeing we'll get them on. We're going to do this hopefully each week, but you can tweet, how would you put it? Hashtag #DropTheBomb.
Drop the bomb, yeah.
Yeah, so you can tweet us, and we shut it down at about 6 CEST today, or whatever that is, 1800 CEST for those of you who use that time frame. So we got 5 questions. That was one of them, and it is an interesting one, I think, because it's something to consider. So at the end of the show, we'll go over those. But back to the point at hand, by the way, I wore socks this week, and
everyone in chat is talking about Sericus socks.
The hole in they have crabs on them, which is an appropriate thing that my friend bought me as a joke.
I was going to say that's very relevant.
Yeah, we'll leave that out. We'll cut that, right? This isn't live, exactly. So look, the thing, like I said though, is it still something that could affect him if Rain's not 100% on it? At this point, with them doing so well, he's going to play for the team still. Like, obviously he's going to play for the team, but is he morally
To preface it like this, I don't feel that the problem for FaZe is that they lack individual skill on their team or that they need a roster change. FaZe needs to widen their game. Right now they're reliant too much, even before Alu, they were reliant too much on their players making individual moves and carrying them through individually. They needed more depth to their game. And I think that's the same thing with NIP. They have the opposite playstyle of FaZe, yes, but they only have that one playstyle. And it worked great for them in the beginning. I think it's what they had to do early on. They had to switch to a different playstyle for it to work. But now teams have started figuring them out. So now the job for them is, mix it up a little bit. And then only after they do that, we'll be able to, judge them and say, okay, this isn't working at all anymore, you need a roster change. But I feel there's still a step to take before going for the roster change.
The problem with FaZe as well, that they've always lacked a solid in-game leader. That they've always mixed that role up time and time again. I think everyone's had a go at some point. And now you bring Alu in, he's definitely not going to be the leader. From my impressions of his character and stuff like that, he doesn't seem, he's more of a quiet one. He's not going to be the one actually telling the team exactly what to do. Historically, Rain has had a go. He's been probably the player that's tried the most. That's why they pretty much brought Robin in. The idea was he wasn't going to be the in-game leader initially, but they were building up to it. Once he learned the team, he was going to be the one taking over. And that plan's just been sabotaged, right? That's just been thrown out the window. And that's another big talking point, of course, when we get into it. But still, that could be stifling for the team going forward. Right now, it might look great with Robin's doing it online if that's happening, but going forward, Rain's probably got to pick that role up again. He said it limited him as a player, and he's one of the superstars of the team. what does the future look like when they actually get to these LAN events now?
Well, that's 100% true. The LAN is the next thing and the next piece of the puzzle. I think they're in a bit of a honeymoon period with this roster change, and I think they're capitalizing at the right times because I have to cue I left my screensaver on for my topics. Okay. Because if you look at some of the other teams, and I think, I don't know which order we had this in, and we have Envy, so which is a good point, because the next three teams we're going to talk about are Envy, G2, and Astralis. So I didn't know which order we had it written down, just to make sure we're on the same page here. All three of those teams struggling. The one I'm most surprised about, oddly enough, is not Astralis, even though they're the most shocking results, but is G2. But let's start with Envious, because they actually have some positive news, and let's start with the good before the bad. Picked up a win this week, did so against FaZe, of all teams, which we're talking about how hot they were. Yeah. Cash as well. FaZe very good on that map traditionally. It's their go-to on, I would say, first pick, 99% of the time in tournaments. And their ban obviously being Overpass, which they won, which is oddly enough this week as well. So, looking at Envy though, I'm still not convinced, but that's a good win to get. However, it's the only win they've gone for. They haven't played a lot yet. I think that might be their only game so far. They're 1-1.
Yeah, that game they had on Cash is when Devil was stepping up pretty tremendously. He looked very strong there. That's been a missing factor for them as well. They've obviously had the same issues. The in-game leader. They've talked about, we're going to stick with this lineup, which I didn't see coming. I thought there'd be another huge French Revolution coming in here of all the lineups changing, not necessarily maybe involving GT, but I thought Envy was definitely changing players. Yeah. But they came out on Twitter and said, no, we're sticking with this 5. However true that is, and whether that will still remain is yet to be seen, but they're changing the roles and they're addressing the issues they currently have, which seems to be working, but still the results are hit and miss. That one game they had on Cash where they won 16-6 against FaZe, it looked great, but that's when, like I said, Devil was stepping up, who's normally quite absent, and Kenny was in godlike mode. He actually was looking phenomenal throughout that series.
Yeah, and before I just throw to you, Janko, obviously, I don't want you to just sit there. I want you to thoughts. But like I say, FaZe taking advantage of some of these situations. I think if theory crafting, shout out to Anders, was a thing, I think all of the French players had this ideal in their mind of wanting to do roster swaps, but everything we've heard internally, nothing really official, but it seems like contracts were the issue on that, and neither team really wanting to budge. I have a feeling that, again, speculation, but I have a feeling that probably what's happening is Envy, being the bigger organization, wants more for a buyout, and G2's going, hang on, we're beating you right now. We want more for our players, or something along those lines probably conflicted it, and they just couldn't come to an agreement. But your thought, Devil in the new role, better?
I think we need more time to really tell. He did seem more comfortable playing in that one best of 2 we saw against FaZe, had a couple of good rounds as well. I think that Envy as a team are the main reason why they were so abysmal in this year is because they lost their confidence, and the way their playstyle worked, being super aggressive, relying on your individual players, right, to be able to get kills while being aggressive. Well, if you're not confident in your play, you can't go for aggressive moves. You're going to get punished for it. And I think that was the problem with players like Kenny, players like Apex as well. Then they tried to, revolutionize their play. Maniac was brought in, MBK was the in-game leader, but that didn't work, and they really just looked lost for the better part of the year. And now they decided, probably after the roster changes fell through, when they realized they were stuck with the lineup, and then it's like, okay, so what can we do? Okay, let's go back to the old playstyle that worked for us, and it kind of seems like one last hurrah, right? The last thing that's left for them to really try and do before they gonna have to do a major overhaul of their team.
Yeah, the CT sides especially have looked pretty horrendous recently. It seems like the T sides actually look pretty decent. They're winning like double figures on the T sides on the maps that they shouldn't necessarily be doing it on, and they get these huge advantages, these huge leads, and then all of a sudden the CT sides come in and they look really static. They don't really know what's going on.
Could you argue that might be since Shock's left, because he's very aggressive on CT sides, and we're seeing that now on G2?
Yeah, it's a very similar storyline in the same thing. I guess Shox, when he was calling for that team, like he played the game he wanted to do, right? And that's where they looked. That's where they looked a lot stronger, in a sense that that's when they had that period when they were like world beaters and all that stuff, and they could actually have some great results. But the French scene seems so up and down. These teams have these ultimate very high peaks, and then they drop down to very horrible lows, and Envious haven't seemed to escape that trough at the moment. It's been a long time coming. They have a couple of positive results here and there, and then sometimes get to a top 4 in a tournament, but then all of a sudden it starts crumbling again, and they have to address it, change the roles once more, change the in-game leader, and then they come back and it's another grinding period, and they have some success, and I'm not sure what the solution is right now.
Is this, in my opinion, well, CSGO wise, I think it is, but in your guys' opinion, is this the biggest fall from grace ever? You win Cluj, and the two following majors, you get knocked out in groups?
Definitely. I don't think that there's ever been such a big drop in form from a team. And it's not just, the majors, but other tournaments as well. Envious has been, coming in last place at a number of tournaments where you would expect them to at least, make it to the playoffs, right? That's the problem. You look at that team. You have Kenny S, at one point the best player in the world, the best opera in the world. You have Apex, who is probably one of the players in the world who has the highest peaks. You remember Cologne 2014 and just the type of a player he is. You have Happy, who's been super consistent for a really long time in that team as well. MBK, one of the best role players, solo players on the CT side. And you just can't see this team dropping out in group stages. But I think that's where the whole confidence story comes into play, right? Without confidence, those players are simply not as good as they are objectively.
Yeah, I'm hoping they bounce back. Like you said, we discussed this on air last week. Is that they obviously have so much potential. They have been world champions before. There's so much. They're so below where they should be right now, and I think they know what the solution is. They don't have to change players necessarily. I think they have a good core and a good lineup. The same fundamentals are there. It seems they've gone back to the basics though. Happy's back in the in-game leading position. He's gone back to that heavy lurking role where he's on a side of the map he wants to be in, and his teammates are doing stuff on the other side, and they're getting the entry frags. And Kenny's returning to form as well. The results haven't been amazing online so far, but at least they're getting some wins out of it.
Is this this sort of, like you're saying, going back to basics? Is it similar to NIP Get Right trying to reinvent that lurking role again? Go back to that, because the question. Well, just to finish, it's for me, a lot of this is mentality. If you look at the hours played, I think at one point leading into MLG Columbus. They've got a gaming house in Nice or somewhere, French Riviera or somewhere. I don't think they do anymore.
They did for a while.
Right.
The thing is that the French guys, I think as soon as they get in the house with each other, that's when things start falling.
This is kind of where I was going with this. They had the lowest hours played going into a major. They had the lowest hours played throughout the course of the summer. And are they not enjoying each other? There is some different personalities there, but are they not enjoying the game? Are they sick of it?
The thing is, right?
Gaming
houses as a whole, I don't think they work in general. At the end of the day, it is a job, it's a business, and like a normal job, you go in 9 a.m. till 5 p.m., then you separate your life from that, right? And then you check out, you go home. If you're living with your colleagues, and they're not necessarily, you probably get along with them, they're not necessarily going to be your friends, and you're playing a very stressful game like Counter-Strike, and you're trying to have all this pressure on you, these bad results, and nothing's getting better. You have a really toxic game, you have the arguments and stuff like that. Normally, if you're playing online, as soon as you finish practice, you disconnect from the server. That's it. You go off the TeamSpeak, you can go relax. In this sort of environment, I imagine in a similar kind of apartment room, right? You've got like a small room each, and then you've got this gaming room. As soon as you have this horrible game, you have like 5 or 6 horrible PCWs, and then you have to disconnect, and then we're in the same house. This is that massive argument. That's going to be really awkward. And then I feel like it's really difficult to recover from that and actually be in a good mental state. So that's definitely a positive. They have the house.
Kind of have to be friends, because otherwise...
Yeah, well, that's the thing. There's a fine line between, I would rather play with teammates who are the best CS players in the world, and I can tolerate and I can play with them.
Totally, but I'm saying in the gaming house, you almost have to be friends, right? Because if you get off, if you and I yell at each other, we walk away and okay, whatever, we know it's not personal. Yeah. Usually is, but that's just because I hate you. But we're friends enough that we can walk away with
still mates.
It's still
definitely not.
No, but it's pretty straightforward, right? Like we know, okay, whatever, he's telling me because I need to. Whereas if I wasn't on that personal level, I might just get pissed off and, like you're saying, kind of internalize away from it. In that sense, if gaming houses doesn't work, maybe something like the Astralis office or at NIP.
It works. The workplace works, but obviously you're limited to the geography of the team. Then, is everyone obviously FaZe? They've got players all over the world. Astralis, they're probably on Denmark, sure. I think maybe Duper lives in Sweden. I'm not sure that's still.
He used to live in Gothenburg,
but you obviously have to live in the same city for that to be realistic, right? It's not. You don't want to be commuting.
What NIP does is, I can't remember the name of the city. I'm sure everyone knows that's a NIP fan. It's just, I think, about 40 minutes away from Malmo.
Yeah.
I can't remember where. Anyway, they have an office, and basically when they boot camp, they go to the office. The Extra Fry, I think, office is in the same building, and they all go there and do their thing. Right. Interesting thing is that we're going to focus on a lot of teams tonight, which are all big titles and big organizations that we've seen, throughout time be in the top 10 rankings, but they're all struggling. And this, I think in that sense, there's a really good chance that someone like FaZe, who started off so well, that they could just coast that through, stay consistent and make the playoffs here. There's going to be a chance for the upsets coming through. Next team that's struggling, one that was in the finals last year for ProLeague and pushed SK, then Luminosity, to the absolute limit in a best of 5, G2. And since the major, since the group of death, they truly have died.
Yeah, their online form recently has been shocking. Like, you look at their past results, it's just covered in losses. Like the last 10 games or so, they really haven't really picked anything up at all. And it's like I said before, it's similar to Envious in a sense, but that one half is really good and then they fall apart. Especially on the CT side, it seems to just completely crumble. For some reason, they just can't win the big clutches, or even when they're in 1 versus 3s in situations that are their advantage, it seems to like that someone makes a horrible play, someone's not holding an angle correctly, or they're overexposing themselves to certain situations. They lose those big rounds. You can see it affects them for the rest of the half. As soon as one horrible round comes in, it seems like their play style, the way they start setting themselves up after that, they lose their mojo, they lose the confidence, and then it's like they go very passive. And I'm not sure they're bickering or what, but it seems like there's something goes wrong. They can't get back into the swing of things. They seem like they're quite an emotional team in that sense. As soon as one huge error happens, they can't really recover from it. And that's led to some really interesting results, like 11-4 halves and getting those thrown away, and losing some of their best maps. Like we said, FaZe, they didn't really even play overpass and all that kind of stuff. Is like
that was a shocker for sure. But the problem is, as you mentioned, every time their city sides have been abysmal, right? And you talk about overpass. It's hard for a mixed team to play it on the T side. You need to have coordination, but if your opponents are playing like shit on the CT side, well, then you just need to blow their heads off, which is basically what was happening to G2. And I think it's pretty obvious that they are one of the teams that are affected more by the holiday season, because when you're not on point on the CT side, that much not on point, it basically means that you're just, you're not able to win a single duel, you're not able to do anything. It can be a little bit, maybe not playing as a team, maybe not reacting that well, but not being able to win 4 or 5 rounds on the CT side they didn't win a single gun round on CT side overpass. I think it was a similar case on CT side us 2 against Navi as well. So really, really terrible CT side performance.
This is why it's hard to gauge. We have this whole holiday season just coming to an end, right? It's going to take time. Like you need a couple of weeks to get your aim back in, get the synergy of the team, everyone on the same page. That you're back to work now. You need to get this full professional kind of mindset. So it's really difficult to see. Even though we see teams like FaZe obviously really hungry for it right now, they seem revitalized. But G2, it's just for them, it's just getting back into the swing of things. I think that's what I'm hoping for at least. Like this run of form can't continue. You know how good they can be. Yeah. So that's why it's very difficult for us to even analyze what the specific problems are, because I think a week later they could be back to them themselves, and then we'll say,
that's the thing. I think we can all agree that the quality of CS has been pretty bad. It's not like the teams that are winning are not winning because they're playing like amazing CS much better than their opponents. It's just it's small things. It mostly comes down to individual stuff, right? Some players like having a good clutch and winning an important round here and there, but you have other rounds that they win simply because their opponents make a bunch of mistakes and don't get the easy kills. So I'm really hoping now, it starts again tomorrow. For some teams, I hope that after having, well, at this point probably 10 days, at least 7 days, right, where you're back at your PC, and that you kind of now you remember how the game is being played.
Let's talk about a team who has been lights out since the holiday season, like Navi.
I was going to say, we didn't really have them on the docket, but we should, because with Simple's addition, they look explosive.
Yeah, they seem like they're another team who've got a new player coming to the roster, want to prove themselves and show they're ready for this season. They want to win a major. It has to happen this year. I feel like they want to make it happen. And
weird thing is too, kind of jumping ahead in this segue, they're going to boot camp with SK, which I have
in
an
LA
opinion
as well.
on.
They
should be there by now, I think.
You found that a really interesting idea. Like I think it makes perfect sense. When you want to get the best, you have to play against
perfect sense against Na'Vi, but if you're SK and they've made a roster change and they're your number 1 rival, I think in this point in time that's the clear 1 and 2 for me right now, given the Fnatic roster change, and you're going to boot camp with them. Like, what if then they beat you in the next final, let's say?
But 2 things. First, Fur isn't playing for SK because of his ear injury or operation or whatever it was, so they're playing with Showtime. I suppose they're going to practice with Showtime as well. And a second thing, how hilarious is it that after Simple didn't want to live in NA and play for Liquid, 5 days after he joins Navi, they go to a boot camp to LA. He even tweeted something like, I think that he's going to visit the Liquid guy.
He said all his friends at the Liquid House, and I felt like correcting him and saying, friend, just Hiko. Just Hiko.
Just the point I wanted to make in terms of their approach to bringing him into the roster as well. We assumed he'd be taking the secondary or pro, off-seas. We thought that would be happening. That's a dead cert. It's going to be Guardian and Simple. What a deadly duo that would be. We can't wait to see that happen. That hasn't been the case. They're actually putting him in quite a... It's more like, I wouldn't say lurk role. He's definitely had different roles across each map, especially maps like Train, for example. He's holding the upper platforms towards the inside on the T side, and he's going in for the hard fake. He's going in, smoking down lower, flashing in, trying to get it undetected and being that kind of nuisance in the back. But we've seen him pick up an AWP maybe once in Pro League season, and I feel like I feel like it's right now it's out of necessity. They need to work out how they're going to make him work most effectively in this team. C's still a world-class AWP in his own right. He can be very, very good indeed. You remember that tournament where Guardian didn't show up? I think it was Malmo.
He showed up after the stage.
He was incredible. Like he actually got them through that. And I think it's right now there's kind of adjusting to having him in the lineup. There's not been enough time to actually work out exactly how they're going to play each map. So keep things how they are for now and try and fit Simple into a specific role later on.
And I think more than anything else, it comes down to positions, because when you look at it, obviously Guardian is the primary AWPer, and you rarely have double AWP on T side. It's mostly down to CT, and Simple plays on Dust 2, for example. He plays A side with Guardian, so can't really have two AWPs on one bomb side. And Seized has historically for Navi, as you mentioned, has been playing the secondary AWP on their CT sides towards B, but he really struggled in that first game against G2, but of course that's only because of all the vacations and stuff.
I've liked him in the role. The first game he wasn't hitting as many impact shots that I would have expected. I guess you come to expect from Simple, but it's almost because he didn't have to. The rest of the team is playing good, and then the second night when they go up 4-0, so it would have been last night I think, or 2 nights ago, either way, he looked deadly. Everywhere he went, there was just instant kills. Yeah,
that's the thing. As soon as he gets comfortable in that team, they are potential for number one. That definitely, that's on the cards for sure.
Probably the round that best describes it is that failed 1v4, I think it was, where he got like the 3 kills, and then almost got the last one. Like,
that was against Astralis last night?
No, I think it was against G2. But what happened against Astralis is both him and Guardian were playing really well, and you look at that team and you know, as their opponents, and you see Guardian and Simple playing that well, I would be so scared at that point, because adding that towards all their like tactics and everything they already have set from Starix, that's a really, really dangerous team right now.
Yes.
Guardian as well, as you would say, Janko, rolling back the years.
Definitely something I say all the time.
He actually looked like he's getting back to like God tier levels as well. Like he's hitting absolutely everything. I think the break has done him some good in the sense that some players, like, they'll suffer from it. The other guys who may be recovering from injuries and stuff like that, had some time off, some R&R, actually come back. He's looking refreshed. He's looking like he's ready. A lot of these tournaments, there's a double-edged sword, right? Obviously, when you're in season, it's tournament. You're always traveling, you're always practicing. Sometimes the time off is good to actually get you out of a rut, refresh yourself mentally. He's actually coming back. He's looking very good right now. Online CS, sure, but he's looking comfortable. He's looking like the Guardian we're used to seeing as well.
Yeah. I think that's deadly true. He's been hitting flick shots that I wouldn't have expected. Speaking of, we're going to be doing a flick giveaway of the Fnatic mouse. At some point in time, we aren't there yet, but we will do that soon. But yeah, no, I think he's looked very, very good. And I was going to mention, just when you were saying, when you look on the scoreboard and you see guys like Simple and Guardian just absolutely killing it, even when you're a man up, and it kind of showed in the Astralis game, it didn't freaking matter. Because you still have to be weary of every single player on the map, and they're just so explosive and capable of getting, multiple spray downs and quick reactions. And it showed as well with Device on the AWP. He was kind of cowering away from taking the one-on-ones against Guardian. Maybe that's our good transition, because I want to kind of shift back to the other two teams that we want to talk about in the struggle. Astralis looks dog shit right now.
Well, tell me what you really think.
I'm usually a fan of those guys, but they look absolutely terrible right
and
now.
I think one of the main reasons for that is that Device has been playing super poor for them after the break. He's been one of the probably most consistent players in the tier 1 scene this year, even longer perhaps. But it just seems that he's, really struggling, didn't have enough time to put the hours in, because he's been at some maps, I think, even bottom fragging for them.
So what we've seen in Pro League so far, they played against Navi. Those were big losses, to be fair, but it's against Navi, just come off the break. The one that really surprised me was going up against their Danish rivals in Team X, and they were close games, to be fair, but they should be beating those guys. This is the number 1 team in Denmark. At least get the 1-1 out of it. Like Janko was saying, the individuals weren't really turning up. It seemed like the executions were sloppy. The CT sides weren't really working out for them. It's just Team X, who have been doing some good work recently and have been getting better and better with their new additions. I still feel like Astralis are a 20% better team than them. At least they should be, especially in an online capacity where they should be comfortable. And it was really weird to see them performing so badly recently. Just looking at the results right now, the last 5 games, all losses, some of them huge as well. So.
Yeah, massive losses. And not only that, even when they had the lead against Team X, both halves, I think it was 9-6 and 11-4 respectively, or maybe swapped, I don't know, not respectively, but in that series.
Team X had to come back both times.
And they did it though. Astralis didn't even put up a challenge in either of the second halves, it was shocking. Kind of touched on it, you guys said it too, Device playing not great in the AWP, and in my opinion, is it almost to the point where Kerrigan's, decent, he kind of has to in-game lead again now with the whole, well, he kind of was anyways. Onyx hasn't really been the in-game leading coach, but to give him back the op and Device go back to something he's more comfortable
I think he already took it. I mean, pretty much from what,
we did see
from
it on
what I
Raj.
could see, it's been mostly Kerrigan opping and Device probably picking it up just on some positions, or if they felt that like it was good strategically. But most of the time it's been Kerrigan as the primary opper of the team. So whether that's just because Device came from a break and he's not comfortable with it right now, or is maybe a sign of things to come, right? On them switching back to Kerrigan.
This is the thing with the whole lineup though. Like we get sent loads of speculation as to where these teams are going with and stuff like that. One of the we actually heard about the Fnatic thing a few days before and all that sort of thing. People send us an Astralis.
Yeah. I'm glad you're bringing this up.
And so I'm interested to know, like, the rumor was that Kerrigan was going to be leaving and stepping down for someone else, a younger player perhaps. But
we can say who. I think the rumor was Glaive was supposed to come in his stead.
Well, that would make sense, like, thinking about it, because obviously he worked for them before. He knows the guys very well. That would make sense.
And he was the in-game leader.
Yeah, that would.
I
make
think
a lot
that
of
was.
sense.
I think that was the whole thing was he played so well with them at the major, and they were looking to make changes. Just to touch on that, look, first and foremost, speculation. If it happens, okay, then it turned out to be that there was something in the works. I only emphasize that because I don't want someone to take this out of context. I don't think I need to say it every time. I trust you guys as an audience, but we do say it because we don't know that for sure. But this is what we're hearing.
We get sent loads of bullshit, like stuff that doesn't happen at all. It's just like we have a little group we talking, and it's like, oh, just been told this. What do you think about it? We just have a discussion about it, right?
Yeah.
And we don't think it's going to happen. And we heard the Fnatic thing, especially, was like, no, it's definitely not happening.
The thing is, though, that this one actually is kind of believable in that sense because they have to make a change. Kerrigan's never really been a carry level player. He has at times shown that he has the skill throughout the sort of early parts of 2016, end of 2015.
Yeah.
But the roles are so, I mean, if you take Device off the op, Kerrigan leaves, Glaive's not an op, or Device then has to op. You almost wonder, like, is Cajun B the guy you'd still want then? And at the same time, Kirby, he showed so much skill in Dignitas because he was comfortable with him. He does not look comfortable yet on this roster. He's been playing a lot of sites with Kerrigan.
It seems to be the curse.
And their signature together.
Like, Dignitas is a great farming team for the Danish scene, it seems. Like, AZ especially. Like, he was one of the hottest properties in CSGO as a whole. When he left Dignitas, everyone was trying to sign him. He joined FaZe, or G2, whatever it was back then. And he wasn't like he was bad. He just left his godlike level and, like, superstar kind of performances every single game and, like, carrying his team to just being good, right? Like, and that's fine, but still, like, it seemed like it kind of added more pressure to him. He didn't feel like he could perform at a similar sort of level. We haven't seen anything as of yet, even like these recent good run of form from FaZe in the last few weeks, the last week. He even tweeted himself, like, I'm not playing a good game right now, I haven't found my form. And he definitely has a skill set to be amazing, but it seems like these players have come up from, like, I guess, like the lower teams, like the Academy of Denmark, and they're proving themselves in teams like Dignitas. Kiabi, once again, like, you saw him at Leipzig and stuff like that, he was looking incredible. Like, he's looking like another amazing talent. Then the pressure gets applied and you're expected to win these events, and there's everyone watching you now instead of actually expecting, that guy's easy to stick. They won't win the big games, but this guy will play really, really well. Now you're in a team like Astralis, you're expected to win these games, and you're kind of adjusting it. Is it maybe a difficult environment?
Part of that is,
pressure?
I think, too, that, like, it's easy to stand out when you're amongst lesser talented people, perhaps. Dignitas at the time was playing against some decent competition, so it is interesting, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe your thoughts on some of that, but as well, I just think the timing has been terrible with him and Kerrigan.
I'm not that. I think I said this on the stream as well. I felt that if they won that game against NIP at DreamHack Summer, I think it's a whole different Astralis, because there they had the exact same situation that they had many times in their careers. They're at the semifinal of a tournament. They have the lead. Everything's looking good. They just need to close out the game, and it doesn't happen. And it's the first time they had that situation with Kirby. So imagine they win there. It doesn't matter what happens in the final. Let's say they even win the tournament, and then they think for themselves, okay, so this was like, we finally broke the curse. And I think that, I'm not sure, I hope that a lot of people understand this by now, I mean the viewers, that like psychology and the mentality and confidence, that's why we talk about it a lot, that has like a lot to do with the success of teams and players. I feel like it's even at a 50-50 point by now, because it really matters. It doesn't matter what we think, the only thing that matters is what the players themselves believe and what they as a team think is the reason why they're failing. So all of this has a big impact on themselves, because they, instead of thinking like, okay, we broke the curse, now they're thinking, this didn't, like, the same thing happened again. What's the next thing we can do to change? Like, do we need to switch roles again?
It's exhausting, isn't it?
You start doubting yourself more and more.
You can see it, like, we hang out with these guys in the green room and stuff like that. Like, I think it was DreamHack Open we recently went to, and
The summer.
That's
the
summer
one he was mentioning.
Oh yeah, so you see them, they just look so exasperated after the game. Like, they'd come in, it looks like again they're going to win, and all of a sudden the big round goes against them, the game crumbles away, and then you can see them come in and just like they're almost joking about it. They're almost like laughing at themselves.
The thing is, though,
if you don't laugh, you'll cry. I guess that's what
exactly. When you make jokes and when you make light of it, it's like the best defense is a good offense. So them making fun of it, it says it's in their head, 100%.
Yeah, but it's for me the attitude is like, it seems like they after that game there's like, well, it happened again, guys, lol, and it's just like this doesn't feel like the right attitude to be winning games going forward, right?
Totally.
I have to say that personally, I really dislike that attitude. Like, in general, when players come up to me at whatever after parties, tournaments, and like talk and say, oh, but why do you think this, why did you say this, I don't think that's I always tell them, like, why do you care what I say, I mean, or what my opinion is? I'm speculating most of the time. As a player, in my opinion, you should never care about what the community thinks or what anyone outside of your team and the people who know what's going on think. You should only be thinking about, you know, how am I going to win the next game? How am I going to get better? How am I going to improve? When you allow for things like choking and everything, and you start joking about it yourself, that means it's getting to you, right? And that, in my opinion, only intensifies the problem even more.
The thing is, though, like when we were playing like 1.6 Source and stuff like that, there was a much different landscape, right? We didn't have these sort of pressures of like Twitter. Now everyone has a platform to send a message to their favorite player. Whatever the result, you can message him saying, "Oh, I hate you so much. You lost me this bet. You, like, this is the worst thing in the world. I can't believe you've done this." When we were playing, there was none of this. Like, you have a forum, but it was my choice if I wanted to go on HLTV and read it, right? I didn't have people sending me direct bullshit.
Still
like
your choice if you read it on Twitter.
Of course,
or not. So
but like I'm saying, it's much easier to have all this Twitch streams and stuff,
Right.
and all the Twitter, the social medias. It's much easier to be.
And I agree that it's a
aware of
huge problem, and I think in general that stems from the fact that in esports we're online. Our whole community is online. We are online people. We are in front of a computer. But it's no different than any sport. I said this, I think Shazam was the example I gave, because every single time we talked about him on the previous show that I did, he would message us. Someone would say something neutral about him, and if it wasn't good, he would message us. And I said, Shazam, why the fuck do you care?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what I say. Go play your game. If you look at an NHL player, they're not online as much. If you look at a football player, okay, football, there's some slashback from the community, but the only thing that's going to get to them is if someone they respect as a pundit or their coach says something to them. They're not going to give a shit what the kid on the street playing footy says.
It's a good metaphor in terms of the comparison, but the thing is, you have to remember, like an NHL guy, they've got like a psychology team working with them. They've got a whole staff unit. They're brought up. They have, even when I was in CGS, right, we got training and how to deal with the media and what we need to say and stuff like that. These guys, they're just young kids, right? They're brought up as Counter-Strike players. They're thrown into these high salary jobs, high pressure situations, and it does take time to like go into that kind of space. And obviously, players like Carrigan have been playing for a long time. They'll know how to do it, but you still have some very young guys in that team.
The PR thing's a good note, because in that sense, this is actually an interesting topic that we're going to kind of touching on a little bit here. But in that sense, you know, if you give your account to someone to manage it, they can filter out all that shit for you, right? So if someone's doing PR management for you, and a lot of pro athletes have that now. You know, Fernando Alonso, he might approve a tweet, but he's not the one tweeting it himself in F1, right? Occasionally he might be. I'm sure he has it on his phone, but he's got all notifications turned off. And you know, in that sense, maybe the PR training helps. But the psychology thing, I think that's basic psychology. I mean, maybe it's because in esports, you start by trying to impress your peers and the peers of the community when you work through as a beginning player. I don't know what it is, but there's something that we put way too much emphasis. Even I, as a caster, sometimes read way too much feedback. You've said it to casters as well. Why do you listen to Reddit? Like, it should be common knowledge.
I agree with that. But so you have to remember as well, like, this is going to get a bit deep now. Like, if you grew up playing games like Counter-Strike and you locked yourself in a bedroom and you did this your whole life, there's a chance you might be able to...
This is deep about having
lost a life.
There's going to be... I will testament to this. I'm a perfect example. Like, there's a chance you might be a little bit unhinged. You might not be completely as socially aware as some people.
Can confirm.
And like, for me, like, CS was an escape. Like, I didn't like doing like things normal people like doing, and I love the competitive side. That's how I got my fill of that competitive environment with other people doing, like, playing soccer and like basketball and all that sort of stuff. Like,
you just said soccer. I'm really happy about that.
So, well, whatever, you know what I mean. But the idea was like, this is how I got my fill of it. And it was like my escape from this. And like, these people had a very similar experiences, right? And now they've been chucked into these big salaries. It's only in the last 2 years it's really happened. And some of these guys, the last few months, have been chucked into this world. So you have to think it's quite overwhelming for a lot of these people.
It's true, yeah.
And it's the characters that esports attracts. Not necessarily going to be the most headstrong people on the planet, right? So
No, I think gaming in general. I think that's why it's cool that things like Gamescom exist, and that you see a lot of guys who did have social issues.
Gaming still has a stigma. Even in 2016, there's a stigma.
100% on that, but more to the point, it is usually someone who might be socially recluse that goes into gaming and becomes social because of it. So that's a positive thing in gaming. But you're kind of right. It is explosive as well. There's a very top tier in gaming, and there's nothing right below it. So when you do arrive, you're kind of right. You do get thrown into the fire in that sense.
Yeah, just the world is becoming now. Everyone wants the big interview. Everyone wants to be a slice of this superstar player. If it's someone like, say, you're out like AZ, and then you're just like 18-year-old kids just playing for Dignitas, it's a big organization, but then you get chucked into a world like FaZe, one of the biggest names in the entire planet. Like it could be quite overwhelming for you, like just trying to kind of handle that kind of that landscape. But that is just like a very broad example. But just to make a point, the comparison between sports and stuff like that, I think you have a lot more of a support unit in professional sports.
Maybe so, and maybe it's just the nature of them not being online. And it is cool that esports is a close community, but it does have its drawbacks.
Sure.
So, players, if you're listening to us, especially Astralis, just tune out. You do choke, but don't listen to us. It's fine. Speaking of another team, you should probably tune out because they've been absolutely shit, at least online again.
It's friendly, of course.
I'm always friendly. I have to just keep it going, guys. It's edgy is the way to
just
be,
said,
right?
listen, players, you're shit.
Yeah, exactly. See, tune out. If you weren't listening, you'd think you're the greatest, and you might play better.
Leave the stream on, though. We need numbers. So.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, just mute us.
No, more than ever.
God, I wish they still allowed.
What's the team you want to talk about?
Virtus Pro.
Oh.
Can I just emphasize? I don't think I harped on it enough last week. It's fucking bullshit there in the league. If you're gonna make yourself a name,
see tomorrow yourself.
Yeah, see tomorrow yourself. Show up at work, of course. It's completely fine.
Fired, of course.
It's completely fine. I'm gonna be there to cast your league tomorrow. But honestly, I get it. Okay, they're in the league. You want them there. They're a big name. You think that matters in football?
I don't think it's even up to debate. Everyone knows it's bullshit. Like, that's fine. But like,
you've lost the integrity as soon as you do that.
Yeah, of course. And the thing is, they're a big name, and it's a business. They need it for the business.
Great.
And
you could promote your new Mountain Dew league with God sent Virtus Pro.
I agree. But like, I understand it from both point of view. Like, they're in a typical position. The CEOs are like saying, no, we need Virtus Pro.
Well,
make
the CEO,
it happen,
you mean the CEO that's also the chairman of VESA that also has Virtus Pro not in there. So, yeah, just wondering.
There are a lot of play-by-play casters out there, Henry.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that
apply within. We'll accept that. The only difference is that because I got fired to give you the job, I get 50% of your pay, so I still get paid.
I think the problem is right now that the teams and the organizations are, two big players, so to speak, right? That the team, the orgs like ESL and so forth, they can't really do without those organizations. Like, how can you make realistically a tier 1 tournament and not have, let's say, Virtus Pro in there? Now you can make the same argument for Godsend, but that only happened recently. And I feel that's a problem, right? You have a similar situation in ECS. Because first season, Navi decided to pull out of the league, so they had more time to focus on Starlighter and stuff. So it was like, yeah, Navi's not gonna play and so on. And now you see them, okay, they're not back in the ECS, but they are invited to the ECS Development League, meaning that if they qualify through that, they can be a part of it again next year. While I mean, ideally or maybe objectively, because of them making a move like that, you would ban them for maybe 2 years from playing in all your competitions, because you can't really toy like that with either the orgs or with the viewers in the end, right?
And I agree with everything you say in terms of, and both of you, because you said it as well. It is a business. You absolutely, undoubtedly, you want Virtus Pro to be a part of that. They're an adored team. Look, they're still good. Their LAN results are fantastic. There's no question. But it's the integrity. And if you're going to state a rule that relegation exists and then go back on it, you kind of don't look very honest. And it makes other teams coming up through the system not look as good. Whereas ECS, on the flip side of that, credit to them. Look, if you guys left the league, sorry, you can't come back in, but we'll give you an opportunity. And then there's integrity on both sides. Navi has to play through the league, do it right, and ECS has created a structure.
I'm not really sure how much do we want to discuss these things, but I think it's pretty obvious that esports, or at least the Counter-Strike scene, needs to be like regulated. It needs a lot of. It needs to evolve a lot more until we're at a point where everything is fine. Because we have a bunch of issues right now. Talking about VP, Navi, SK. Now those teams are all owned apparently by the same entity as well. So how much of a conflict of interest you have there and so forth. I think those are all the things that at some point we're gonna have to tackle, like Valve in the end decided to tackle all the gambling and skin betting and all of that stuff.
So quick question then, because we could go on this one for a while as well, kind of gets into what you're saying. 2 questions, I guess. I want yes or no from both of you on the first one. Get your phallic mic ready there. I know you named it Mike as well. Jesus,
Christ.
Don't take it that far.
I'm just making
Henry.
sure it's close.
Holy.
You know, that's
So, should leagues be invite only? Pro leagues.
Yes. Oh no. Okay.
What? Carry on.
I just want to say, like, it's such. It depends on the league. Depends on.
That
Okay.
doesn't solve anything.
No. I'm saying, like, it's really difficult. With the current scheme we have, it makes sense to have the top teams invited regardless. If you're in the top 10, you get an invite to the tournament.
Okay.
Right? So and then the qualifiers are for the lower guys. And they're the
you could
underdogs.
argue then that Virtus Pro losing through the league, if your league is that legitimate, then they're not in the top 10.
The thing is, we all disregard online CS as even being like a real
It's
version of
true.
the game, right?
I'll
So like
give
the
you
online
that.
qualifiers for me, they're almost like they're just like a show pony sort of thing to say, oh, look at this cool content we're pushing out every
The problem
week,
is
right?
that there's a grey area with that one, I think.
Exactly,
So
so-
if your formal answer would have been yes.
I would
to
say
start off.
I prefer invites, and we lose as much online
problem
presence.
is like, online games are dog shit as we can tell. No one likes watching them. The viewers watch them simply because there's nothing better at the time. For the organizers, it's like easy revenue from people
exactly,
watching
that's it.
and everything. But ideally, and you look at leagues, everywhere leagues have a lot of teams, right? And they go on through the whole year, and then you finish off with a playoff or something, right? So if
Well, this is why as well.
my ideal answer would be you would have a lot of teams in a league, and you would have teams being invited, the majority of them, but you would also have, and I think this is important for esports, I mean for CS in general, that you always have open qualifiers, because it allows for someone who doesn't have any backing, like no sponsors, no nothing, no orgs, no salaries, they're just good at the game.
How did Epsilon arrive?
Yeah, and it gives you a chance to go, from 0 to hero, pretty
0
much.
to 100.
The thing is, it's part of the whole
real
machine,
quick.
though. Like, we wouldn't have the money or the backing unless we had these online seasons, right? It wouldn't exist.
It's a thing of, it's a necessity.
Yeah, like go on, yeah.
Well,
regardless, yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, the point I'm making is obviously it's a lot more valuable for a sponsor. Like we have sponsors for this show. This show wouldn't exist without our sponsors. We are going to talk about them shortly, so don't actually go anywhere. We forgot to do that at the start. The things like this, projects like this, they don't exist without the people putting the money forward, right? And you need to give them something for their money. And having an online season that runs for 10 weeks, that's really appealing for them. So we've got like 3 shows a week. We got all these bumpers. We got Alex Machine Richardson saying the score all the time. It's brilliant. And like if you just had one LAN tournament, you don't get the same exposure, right? You just have one weekend and you say you're not going to get as much money and you don't have that same backing, right?
Well, I mean, I think that the ideal solution for that is simply you'd have a LAN league. E-League kind of went that route. But again, so the short answer, because obviously you guys don't know yes and no, this is why I said we go forever, is yes, invite is ideal.
Yeah.
But there has to be some sort of system
Majority
where they can
invite.
still
That
qualify.
would be my answer.
Yeah, majority invite, but then it also, I think you open it up to side tournaments like DreamHacks where they're inviting.
If everything could be like
E-League,
E-League, that would be amazing. Like having LAN games like that and like having group stages go through that, that's really...
Speaking of E-League, second question that goes on this, try and keep it short. Should the orgs own the spots then, or the players?
Yes.
Orgs should own the spots.
I think so. If you're going to treat it, if you want to get it to the point where we're like real sports, and I think the problem is right now, there's no transfer window, there's no officiality to it, there's no governing body, right? We have no idea how long these players are really signed for. It's very rare. We actually find out whether they're signed on a 2-year, 3-year deal. It's always like, or we'd have no idea like what the buy fee was. Like in sports, if like a football player, let's say Wayne Rooney gets bought by Chelsea, let's say that happens, like everyone knows, oh, he got bought for this much money, it's a 3-year contract, this is big news, and he's going to be really happy to join his team. We hear it, it's just like we have no idea on the terms, we have no idea the contract right now, there's no real window of opportunity. Like I'm not sure even how the orgs find out who's available, who's not. It's just like send a Skype message. So, how much do you want for this guy? Is it this much?
Yeah.
And we'll do it. That's like
Nico, $1 million.
yeah, it's just like I think there's a lot behind the scenes going. We have no idea how it operates, and I feel like if the orgs start having like proper contracts in place, everyone's got the same contracts going on in terms of like what the terms are and how it operates in terms of the players and what their rights are and what the orgs have control of as well. That starts to make more sense to me. Obviously, it's great if the players get fucked over by the orgs and stuff like that, and they say, no, we're actually going to leave this org, we're not happy with the way we're being treated, we're going to keep your spot and we're going to join someone else. That works for the players, right? But I don't think you can operate like that going forward if we want to be taken seriously as an actual entity in esports in the whole.
I'd say yes, but it needs to be more regulated and transparent, as Henry said, right? You have to fault the players as well to an extent, right? You're the one signing the contracts. Okay, you maybe didn't expect that you're going to achieve so much success, but then don't sign 2-year contracts, sign a 6-month contract, right? If you want to be able to revisit your position, and then pick your orgs maybe more carefully, so that if you want to leave, or make it so that you make turns depending on results. If you achieve results, then you have bonuses or whatnot. And I think in the end, ideally, considering how the landscape works with the organizations as well, I feel that teams should own the spot.
The one thing that I will say with that, and I think transparency is key, and you kind of touched on it, is if an org owns the spot and I'm on a different org that's not in that league and I'm achieving success and I'm doing really well, but I can't get into that league, I have to then pretty much have my contract bought out by the other team or sell myself to the other team, which kind of gives them negotiating power in that sense, which is where the transparency would come back in. So there still has to be some sort of...
Just an example of this one, the SK Luminosity mess that happened, like, that would just seem like a complete shit show in terms of like what was going on. The players are getting involved, they're the ones doing the deals, and like the players, like some players want to go, some don't. There needs to be agents in charge of this stuff who are actually doing this officially on the record, and we know exactly, there's a paper trail of what's actually happened, not sort of speculation.
Speaking of, I've mentioned this to 3 or 4 players. There is a very, very reputable sports agency that's reached out to me through a contact that I had that wants into esports, and every time I bring it up to a player...
Hey guys, heard about
yeah, no,
about this.
I disclaimer, I have nothing to do with it. I have literally told the guy I will... But the point is, here's the point I was going to make though. Not so much that, whatever, I'm sure we've all got a contact that could do this. I'm sure we've all talked to someone like this. Point is, when I bring it up to players, they shy away from it. They're scared of that.
Same as the player union. Come on, like only when a big shitstorm arises when someone starts tweeting about, this is the time and the players will unite and everything. The bottom line is they simply don't care enough or as much to really unite and to really start, consolidating, making demands and stuff. I feel right now, with all those transfers and all spot ownership and everything, it's a lose-lose situation every time. Yeah. Because what do you have? You have the SK Luminosity one for E-League. Obviously, you want the best team in the world to play at a tournament like that, right? But because of you need to establish some sort of rules, ideally, you would make it a case-by-case thing, but that's not something, ideally for the scene, for the viewers, right? So that you can work your way around the rules and stuff, but then it's not fair to the lesser team, right? In that case, the former SK guys, they got punished for not doing anything. They basically, their contracts ran out, their organization got another team, and they were just dropped out of the league for none of their fault, pretty much, and I don't think that's something you want in esports, at least.
Yeah. Well, at least SK were already in the league, but my point is, well, if I was 5 on the outside of the league and I needed to get in, I don't have the org that's there, it could be a problem. So, look, I think it is interesting as well that the players shy away from that. It's like they don't want to bite the hand that feeds them, but what they have to realize at the end of the day is they're the ones providing the food. They're the ones doing all the work.
They're the ones that they are the team. They are the face of the whole thing. That's just a name at the end of the day. That we know we don't need these orgs to actually survive. You can go off and do your own thing if you want. Godsend, Astralis. The orgs need to be very careful and how they're treating these kind of situations, because there's going to come a point where that could be a serious problem then going forward. They'll become redundant. But
I wish they just entertain. It doesn't have to be the guy I know, but entertain talking to any agent. Go to any sports agency out there. There's guys that are interested. Everyone wants a chunk of the pie right now in esports.
I think the problem is that the players perhaps don't realize how fast the landscape is changing in esports, how fast we're evolving. Right? Look at where we were only a year and a half or 2 years ago, right? You
had no Henry G.
When you had no 1K, when you had the first arena event.
I was still around, by the way, guys. I was a legend back then.
Yeah. Legend, of course. Tribes legend, of course. Tribes legend, of course. Yeah, and people need to realize things move fast, and that's, as I said, why commit yourself to anything longer than 6 months, a year tops? The infamous case was, I think, VP guys, the Polish guys, that signed a 2-year contract a while back. They had a couple of thousand, I think, salary was the rumor, and at the time that was amazing. It was like probably the highest paid team ever, while as far as we're hearing right now, that's not nearly as some of the top teams get, and they thought that they were making a great deal, but in fact they,
Well, the expansion's been so fast, right?
That's the thing. So I feel that with all of those things, that the players just need to maybe, I agree with Henry, just get someone whose job it is, and what you said with agents, maybe just get a team manager who can deal with that stuff for you.
Yeah, contractual. I forget who it was. Someone in the NBA said they compared it to like 1950s basketball, and it's kind of like everyone wants a chunk of the pie. I think there's guys in esports that are not qualified to be doing the jobs they're doing because at the time they were, when it was still small.
Like the three of us.
And then yeah, exactly. And then it expanded, and guess what? You're stuck with us. So here we are. So.
Right. Okay, so we are getting pretty deep into this one, Matt.
Yes.
Do you want to take the intermission? We'll do the sponsors.
Well, I was going to say, I do want to go to the intermission. There's a couple things I want to do first. First and foremost, VP Online not looking good again. Got one win. NIP overtime, that's it. But Team X, touch on it quickly. Reasonable start to the season. They beat Astralis twice. Haven't got the wins, but they've got numbers up there. Is this a team that's improving to watch for?
They're one to look out for sure. They've been turbulent. The first couple of days were pretty lackluster, but recently it actually looks like players like Glaive are stepping into it. They're actually finding some form together. Molly's finding form as well. And Friss, a player I've always been a fan of. Not the flashiest AWPer, but one of the most solid you can actually find in terms of that more passive play style, and it seems like the whole unit is actually working very nice as well. Vald is a player that's really impressed me, like him at absolutely nowhere in DreamHack Open.
Yep.
And he seems to be playing lights out right now, so very turbulent up and down right now, but when they are playing well as a unit, they can beat a lot of these top teams. So they obviously beat Astralis as well. I think that a team to look out for the next 6 months. If they can stick together, they don't get poached in terms of the players that we kind of speculated before. If that doesn't happen, I think they could have a real strong chance of making it.
I agree. I think they're also an interesting team simply because they play all the custom maps. I mean, they play Overpass, Cobble, Train, and Mirage. Those are their four strongest maps. So when you look at it, not all teams play all of the maps. And seeing as you only have 2 vetoes, there's going to be a lot of upset potential with this team, even against stronger opposition.
That's actually a really good point. Very good point. So on that note, we are going to go to an intermission in a second. First and foremost, though, I do want to talk about sponsors. We have to. Look, Space Jam sent us some more stuff this week. Henry, oddly enough, ran out of Space Jam this week, and whatever else he was smoking smelled like absolute shit. So I'm really glad you're smoking it again. You don't have a mic in your mouth.
Oh, there we go. It's coming here. The thing is, like Space Jam, right? Like the whole philosophy of our show is we didn't want to take on anyone who just throw money at us, right? We actually reached out to people.
But they did anyway, of course.
Of course, like who wouldn't? But I mean, like the whole thing is like we want to be supported by products. We actually we support. We actually like what they do. Madison vape. That's not the thing he does. I'm not going to suggest he does or he uses.
I do enough other things that mess up my life.
But I've been vaping for a long time now, and I actually had no affiliation with Space Jam before. I tried their products; they're the absolute best. I noticed they were getting into gaming. I approached him and kind of discussed ideas. We were on the same page, and they make the absolute best juices, in my opinion, on the actual market.
And it is official now as well. They are sponsoring Luminosity. So the organization is on board with them. They want to help esports.
They are going to help us with funding, and we're using all their products and stuff like that. And if you are a smoker and you're trying to get off that, try vaping out. It's a really good, healthier alternative. I'm not going to say it's good for you, but it's a much better way to ingest your nicotine, and you can look as cool as I do on this stream. So,
yeah, and speaking of looking cool, of course, Darkin as well is helping us out. I got my Global Elite hat on that I've clearly earned by merit. I'm definitely Global Elite. There's no question. Don't look at my Steam profile. But one of the other sponsors, guys, Fnatic. We've got the flick mouse behind Henry. I don't know if you can fully see it. He might be obstructing it. We're using a wide-angle lens. Camera adds 20 pounds. That's why he's obstructing things. Look, we're going to do a cool little giveaway to get one of these mice. And oddly enough, as it was Fnatic made, Flusha used it. You could adjust the lift rate. Obviously, he was a mouse lifter. So, cool feature.
That's not true, by the way.
Look, we're joking around. Point is, here's what you're going to do. So, next week we'll reveal the winner. All you have to do, and did you set up a hashtag for this?
I did.
What is it?
There is a hashtag. It's going to come up on your screen momentarily.
Ooh.
Hashtag
Damn, Tom's good.
Flick of the Week. It's a new idea brought to you by Fnatic Gear.
Yes.
Basically, do you want to do it? You got a spiel.
Go ahead.
Spiel? Okay, so basically, we want to have a more engaging sort of giveaway. We don't want to actually just say, oh, retweet this, do this, follow this. We actually want to see the diehard fans win the prize. We offer it each week. So this is kind of the experiment. See how much you guys get involved. Send us your best flick shot. So basically, mainly that normally means with an AWP, but if you have got some Deagle shots, AK swings, M4, like huge 180s and stuff like that.
Yeah, we'll take everything into consideration.
We'll take everything, but the best one, in our opinion, there's no real rules, so I'm afraid it's just going to come down to what I look at and what I like the most is going to win it. I'd prefer it if it's a new clip, like something you've done in the last month. That would be great. If it's something from 2 years ago, it's obviously really old. I'm probably not going to put it as high up on the table.
Unless it's incredible.
Unless it's like super sick. So yeah, send me your YouTube clips to that hashtag. I will look at them this week, and we will announce it on next week's show.
And not only will we announce it, we will play the top clip, and we may or may not. We'll see if it depends on where it is. We may put it on our YouTube channel as well. So
if we can get the actual video files from the winner,
exactly, that's the big thing. We have to get the original file in order to do that. But we'll try and make all that happen. So you have a chance to win a flick, guys. With that said, we are going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll segue into the conversation about coaches, which may lead to much more because there's lots of issues that go along with it. We've got some opinions. We'll be back in a second.
What's up, guys? You're watching Drop the Bomb. Test.
Back.
Yeah, well, testing microphones is never going to be the same after that. But yes, welcome back to Drop the Bomb, guys. We are ready to roll. We've had a good show so far. Remember, get those clips in hashtag Flick of the Week for your chance to win a Fnatic Flick mouse. Best flick shot, simple as that. Right, big news this week. Happened last Wednesday night. Valve's ruling on coaching. Coaches now can only talk along the lines of, I don't remember the exact wording, can only talk during the pregame and one of 4 30-second timeouts. They can no longer in-game lead during active rounds and cannot talk in freeze time for that matter either.
And halftime.
And halftime, of course, right, sorry.
So, I'm in two different minds about this. Obviously, from my era of CS, we never had coaches or anything like that. So it was part of the skill set you had to require. You needed to look for someone who could take on this in-game leading role. It was part of the skill set of part of the game. Like, you didn't even consider this whole coaching thing. This didn't exist. And it did apply extra pressure to a certain player. But the idea was, if they couldn't frag at the same time and they felt like it was too much for them, you're just not cut out for that role. It's something I did for many, many years. And I felt like I enjoyed it. I felt like I could frag more in a sense because I'd be controlling the way I wanted to play and the way the team would be going, and I'd see opportunities on the map. And I used to really like love that. I used to love the experience. But the way the CSGO has progressed right now, it's kind of fucking up a lot of different teams that have come relying on a system they brought into their game. They make a coaching system as part of CSGO. They actually added that and put in the software of the game to have a coach on the server with you. So where do they stand on it? It's very mixed messages right now. Obviously now they've put their foot down, but before, why putting this coaching system in if the future of the game that you've made, you don't want it in there? It's very difficult for us to understand why this has come in right now.
And there's been lots of different opinions, some of which in favor are teams that don't have coaches, so you can see why they would be favorable for it. Some of who are against it are anyone really, players, pundits, casters, whatever. There is two sides to it, there's absolutely sure. You had a tweet that I thought was very good, Janko, and I retweeted it a few times, the one about irresponsibility from Valve.
That's the thing. I mean, there are two sides to the decision itself. Obviously, you have what Henry mentioned, that you have players who are simply, that's a skill set, being able to read the game, being able to make the calls, to lead your teammates while being able to play as well. Not many players are able to do that, so that will increase their value. It really does strengthen the fact that it's only the 5 players on the server doing almost all of the work, right? On the other hand, you have the traditional sports have coaches, yada, yada, yada. For me, the biggest problem is the timing of the decision.
Yep.
Because, and I was even more aggravated after they made the blog, the announcement from Valve's point of view, because they basically implied that we were always telling teams that we wanted the coach to only be like an analyst or whatever and everything, and now it's come to a point where that clearly isn't the case, so we decided for the competitive integrity or whatever the wording was. That's simply not true, because it has been more than a year and a half probably, when people started using coaches as in-game leaders. Just look at StarX, for example. I think it was last year, April or somewhere around that, after Katowice last year, where he switched to the coaching position and was the in-game leader of the team, right? After a while. So that's simply not true. That only started happening recently. And as Henry pointed out, they were the ones adding coaches in the first place. So why not, in my opinion, if you don't want it in the game, you don't want it to be like that, the first team you see use their coach as the in-game leader. That's where you cut it, because you're supposed to cut it in its roots. Otherwise, now you have a lot of teams who I think made roster changes relying on their coaches to be the in-game leaders of the team, right? I tweeted that I didn't think that Navi would make their change. Maybe if they knew about the coaching rule, Flame replied that they would, but yeah, that they didn't expect it, that they're in a bit of a problem right now, that they have to figure things out.
And the thing is, it's not like it just affects the majors, right? Historically, throughout all of these changes that Valve have implemented without any sort of real discussion with players, like the round change time, the bomb change time, there was no warning for that, really. There was no, we have meetings with these guys. We don't really get to come in and say, okay, guys, we're going to bring this in. Let's have a discussion about it. This is what we're going to do. We're happy to hear your thoughts and hear your arguments. That simply doesn't happen. It'll just come in one day, Uniserial, oh, the game has completely changed today. And this was a big change. There's probably 15 different careers right now that are going to be affected by this, like in terms of like top 30 teams have got coaches. And it's a really strange change to make, just for the points you made before. And I'm just really interested, like, obviously I think almost all leagues will pick this up, right? I think ECS have come out and said...
ECS says they will not.
But, like, what's the point? Like, if everyone else is doing it...
I think the point of that was a well-timed tweet.
Yeah, of course, right?
And
but, like,
to be fair, they'll go through with it, but
point?
eventually,
like,
you're right.
It doesn't make sense. So you might as well get good at the guys who's got a in-game lead. You're always limiting yourself, saying, oh, guys, ECS, though, we can still do the way we want, but... You're almost throwing that opportunity away to actually use that time to actually get ready for the major.
I mean, it's not a small league, but the thing is, I don't know if everyone's aware of this. I mean, the viewers, that unless you follow the exact same rule set as Valve is implementing for the majors, there is no chance of your event being a Valve-sponsored event, a major. So let's say ESL, DreamHack, StarLadder, if they want to potentially their event to be picked as a major event.
Supposed to be the TV tech.
God damn it,
what have you done?
You had one job.
You had literally one.
Yeah, so if you want to be considered for a major, you need to follow the exact same rules. So that's why I assume that all the big, most of the at least, big organizers are going to switch to the Valve rules.
Just leave it. Here, I might be able to do it from this one. Look, I do kind of agree that a couple points you guys brought up. I think your responsibility is big, and it also goes back to what you were saying. I've been very vocal about it on Twitter. I've had people giving me a bit of backlash for how vocal I've been about it as well. But look, never once have I defended coaches. Not that I disagree with them, and I think it was HLTV, Peter. How do we say his in-game name? Twiggles? You can't.
It's the game will restart in 1 second, but only using the
Oh, is that? Okay, right. Gotcha. Okay, anyway, Peter said something along the lines of it's a natural evolution, and it is bringing the game to a deeper level. I think that's 100% true. And if Valve wants the user experience to be better for those at home so they can be, we can be like the pros. That is, come on.
Matt's got a good one.
64 tick.
There it is.
64 fucking tick. You want it to be the same? Give me 120 fucking 8 ticks. Done, Valve. That's game over. You already lost the argument. Not to mention, if I play hockey as a kid, okay, the amateur system and that, I got coaches, yada, yada. Not the, if I want to go play hockey, I got to go play pickup. It's not the same, but I still enjoy the game.
It's not just that. It's what's stopping 5 guys having a 6th friend who's going to coach them. What's stopping you? You don't need to, I mean, now you're saying, yeah, but this team has StarX and the other team has Zonic. Well, they're the best players in the world. I mean, you can't really compare it. So if the 5 of us want to play, we can start off. We don't have any orgs, we don't have salaries, we don't have nothing, but you can find a 6th guy who maybe believes in us,
DDK.
Can contribute. DDK.
Get him.
DDK. No, he has to be in the team, obviously, with his amazing mechanics
guys,
from Quake.
You want to be the coach?
Yeah.
Okay.
You see, Matt will be the coach, and there's nothing stopping you of adding a coach. That's why the system is in the game, right? That they themselves implemented. I just feel like that at times it looks like they're unsure of where they wanted to go, and I feel that they let it go too far for it to be just cut down like this.
Let me tell you an interesting story, right? So back in 2011, we were invited out. They invited like the top 10 CS source teams at the time to go and play in towards the Valve offices. We went there for 2 weeks, and we got flown in, and we got to play this mystery game. They didn't tell us what it was. We probably could feel like it was a new Counter-Strike coming, right? We got there, and it was like shocking, like how bad CS:GO was back then. Like the P90 was the best gun in the game. The AKs and M4s weren't viable. Their argument was at the time, oh, we want to make it so every gun's an option within CS:GO, and that makes sense. I was like, yeah, okay, that's a reasonable thing. But you've made the AK not work. You made the M4 actually worse than the P90. These are iconic guns in the game. This doesn't really work, and everything was so horribly offset to what CS should be, right? And we had this big meeting. We had this maybe a 4-hour discussion, like this big forum with all the developers of the game, and at the time it was like our team, like Very Games, the Danish team, they're the best at the time, like Fetish and people like that, and 32K, basically those kind of guys. There's a couple of German teams as well, and we had a big discussion. I was almost leading the conversation, like.
Of course.
I was trying to be the most vocal. I put all the notes to the guys. We really need to listen to us. This is our future. We need to make sure we're giving our message across right. So we had this big meeting, and they agreed with all our points. Said, "Oh no, it's really interesting." They had some discussions as well, and they kind of talked to us why they thought about it. And we said, "Okay, cool." At the end of the trip, they thanked us so much for their time and stuff like that. 2 months go by. The game comes out. Nothing changed, of course. Nothing removed, nothing balanced. It's exactly the same fucking version we played when we were out there. It's just like they said they set up this private forum for us, and we'd get all to have our input, and they'd have a beta version of the game. Just none of that came about. And it's just like, what? Is that ignorance or what? They just couldn't be asked to listen. Why spend tens of thousands of dollars getting us out there just to go, oh, no, actually, I don't like that.
They didn't like our idea. They get offended. Are they taking it personal? Because this seems to be a debate right now in the community. Some people are saying that the information that Valve's been given from players is too kissy. Oh, everything. You might change this, but it's fine. And some people are saying Valve's just simply not listening.
No, I think Petter made another good argument that there should be kind of a council, so to speak, something like that. There has to be a way for the community to give feedback to Valve. But the problem is the only time we see developers is at the majors, where we obviously have a lot of work. The players are there to play the biggest damn tournament, right? They don't want to talk about the game. They want to be focused on the tournament. The players who are winning, now you can say, oh, but what of the teams that drop out? Well, you dropped out of the biggest tournament and one of the 3 of the year. You're not really, keen on talking. It shouldn't be like that. That's them. Oh, we're here now. It's the only time you can talk to us. So, right? Let's say I personally at the last major I was doing every game, so I physically did not have the time to talk to them, even if I wanted to. So they, run into a player who's waiting to play a game, maybe 2 hours out. They say, oh, like, oh, what do you think about like this? And he will just give probably a platonic answer or whatever, something just to get him off his neck because he wants to relax for 2 hours before the game. I think that's fair. I don't think you can really blame players for not being willing to talk in depth, perhaps, or most of them to Valve devs at the major.
The one thing I will say, and this is something that I thought at the time, my naivety, it was my first major. I thought it was just standard procedure. Is at Cluj, there was a meeting before the tournament started, the day of rehearsals, the media day, where Valve took all the players. We were specifically not invited. Took only players and team representation and went into a conference room at the hotel we were in, locked the doors, and brought up a few changes that they were going to make. One of which we knew all the way back at Cluj was that Inferno was going out and Nuke was coming back in. That was made very clear then. It took another couple months to get back in. Unfortunately, it also brought some changes in the game that went, by the time it did happen, Inferno was good again just because of the shift in the meta. But I thought that would be standard. Why doesn't Valve go out of the way to set something up like that every event?
That's a big question. I wish they would. I wish I had the answer to that question. The thing is, we have very little feedback from them. It's like a blog post once every 6 months, right? That's about all we get. There's sometimes a guy who'll come on Reddit who works with Valve and say, he'll just confirm something, like he'll say like, oh yeah, just to let you know that this bug has been fixed now. Cheers, have a good day. It's like, that's pretty much all we'll get. If you look at other Reddits, like even to we talk about Riot and Dota and stuff like that, but they have developers that are actively involved and watching the Reddits. I'm sure Valve are watching them, but it's the little feedback we
And
get.
it's a small team as well.
The little feedback we get, it's almost redundant. It's like it's so non-committal and so there's no real insight to it. It's just like, well, we'll just wait for this blog post to come along and whatever you've changed, I guess we'll just deal with it.
That's the problem. When you don't have feedback, then what's left for you? Speculation. So we can only speculate, like, oh yeah, there's only 7-9 people working on the game, while Dota has, I don't know, 200 because of the way Valve works and stuff and so forth, that you really don't know what will come next, and you are not sure if any of the feedback or whatever you want to do, you're not sure if it's having any effect.
It seems like the only guy who's really doing anything right now is the sound engineer. He's just like, guys, I've got some wicked ideas, so I want to make all the guns sound exactly the same, right? It's like
that's the problem. There's outrage about different problems, like maybe about the coaching stuff, but even before, first shot inaccuracy, jumping AWP and scout accuracy, movement, the low movement inaccuracy with the pistols, I mean they're really accurate while you move around and stuff, and you don't get any feedback about that, and then another CSGO update and you're like really hopeful, okay, this is maybe they worked on something. No, boys, you just got like changed sounds to P250 and the USP and whatnot, and at that point you really get disheartened at some point, because you feel that there are much bigger problems that are not being addressed, and it seems at times that like do people even care? Do they even care about that stuff?
I want to read both ways on that though, because I think they do care about the game. Look, small changes like sounds and stuff do help.
I mean, obviously that they care is just
and relevant, but from an esports perspective, you're right. There are bigger issues in the game, and my bigger concern is A, is there too little people that they're working on too much things and can't get to it, or B, there's just no one that's actually actively working for Valve right now that really understands competitive esports.
Right now, having like these really small evolutions. There's not been a big revolution in CSGO in a long time. Like there's not been a sick feature that's added to brought a breath of fresh air into the actual game itself. I think the last time that happened was when skins were brought in, right? That's the last time the game really got going. They could do that again. There's plenty of stuff you could do with the game to actually bring it back to life. Since we have this lot of skins betting, like whatever your opinion on that is a big part of the game, right? We're going to lose viewership. To bring it back to life, right? If you want us to have people the same experience as these teams do at home in the same sort of team atmosphere, let's get 5-on-5 ranked matchmaking going on. Let's have some in-game leagues and stuff like that, so you can actually play the same 5, learn as a clan. You don't have to go through leagues and stuff like that. There's all third-party shit. You actually can play as a solid 5, have your team name, have your little clan page set up and all that stuff. That's for me, for a game developer, it's a big job. And so they're definitely capable of it. We have that in other games. So
and then run your major qualifiers through your Valve client. Guess what? With 128 tick. And then you create an infrastructure that makes sense.
To me, that's like if I'm working for Valve, like let's say Henry G's been hired for Valve, I say right, let's get that in. So you're working on sounds. No more sounds. You go over here. Right, team matchmaking. League of Legends has it. Dota has it. They have it for a reason, because you can actually get into a team's capacity. Find 5 people you like through the solo matchmaking experience. Say, oh, do you want to make a team? And then you start getting better. And we don't need FPL to farm these new talents and stuff like that. We don't need rank S. You can do it within the game. You match people at the same level as you, and then you can have rewards in that as well. You could win if you win your league for that season. You get like some 6 stickers, or you get some 6 skins. There's like incentives there, and you lock down the anti-cheat. Like that's another conversation completely. Don't even start that.
Do you know what bothers me here is? Tell me, in the last year, 2 of the biggest changes that affected like competitive Counter-Strike.
Orb
nerf would be one of them.
I'm looking at me like I'm wrong. Are you thinking else?
No, I'll let you name your 2, then I'll name mine.
Okay. Op nerf is one for me. Second one would be the round time and the bomb time, obviously.
I would say round time, bomb time, and the thing is, I haven't played the game at all since the new update came out with the tapping, so I can't really speculate how much it has changed. It hasn't been that much feedback actually.
I don't think it's that much.
For me, that sounded like a huge deal, and I'd have to play it. But for me, I agree. The round time and bomb time, that was a massive change in terms of the way the game was played. Orb nerf is up there as well, but I'm going to put the tapping update in there as well.
Which one? The tapping. Yeah, okay.
For me, it's the round time and bomb time, and the second is the coaching. I mean, that happened. So I'm not sure if you guys were thinking about that one.
Yeah, too fresh. We were thinking backwards. Yeah.
So the thing is, those are the 2 biggest changes in the last year. None of it has anything to do with the game itself, with gameplay. They're changing stuff in accordance to the rule set that's been there for forever. I mean, knowing the round time and the bomb time. So you're not changing like accuracy stuff, you're not changing the op, you're not changing movement, you're changing a rule set that's been there, and now you've changed coaches, which okay, you implemented, but now you're going back on that decision. So the thing that's changed esport landscape the most in the past year are decisions which have nothing to do with the mechanics of the game. And that's what bothers me, because there are so many other things that you should be doing, but you are just deciding for reasons unknown to us to change rules that have been there for a long time.
This is what frustrates me about this, because Valve, they're game developers, right? They don't have the experience we have. They may have played the game a lot, but we've played it like at a top level. We've played these competitions for the last 12 years or so, right? And we understand what needs to go into the game, what changes need to be made in terms of to make it better as a whole. Like you said, that recipe for Counter-Strike has been around for a long time, that round time, the bomb time, like that. It's not like it was a problem. It wasn't like it was a huge disparity between like the other iterations of CSS 1.6 compared to CSGO and to the way the game was played. There was issues with maybe the smokes were too overpowered and stuff like that, but the adjustment they're arguing was that's how they addressed it, right? But for me, like this is the oldest argument in CSGO, right? Someone who has real esports experience and played at a top level needs to be there, just coordinating things, getting a big whiteboard up there. So this is the priority list. It sounds, they're important, that's fine, we'll work on it, but that's going to go somewhere down here. Yeah. This other stuff is going to go up here. We're going to work on that. We're going to start pushing it out. We're going to start having feedback our community. We'll start telling them what's in the works, what to expect. Here's a beta client as well. We'll test it for a month, see how it works out. And then we had that in Source. We had a beta client. Why have we gone backwards?
If you have off seasons, if you want to test your beta client, all you do is, if we have off seasons, ideal world, never going to happen, whatever, play it in FPL.
Yeah.
You don't have to play officials to test a beta client. You just have to make sure that you test the mechanics.
Whatever the update is, every fucking update they do as well has got some horrendous bug in it that breaks the game for a week. Like it seems like every single time they do it, it's like, whoops, broken it again, boys. It's like, okay, well that's fine, but it takes you 3 or 4 days to actually fix it. Like if you had this beta client, just for one day you released it, everyone would find out what the bug is. You get the feedback, you look at the data and say, okay, well that's obviously a problem. Don't release it. So easy.
Imagine like how big are the mistakes that are being made when you have to revert the update because of the outburst of the community, how overpowered, how big of a lapse in judgment that is. Okay, and that's your job, as you said. That's like mechanics of the game. You are the game developer, and that's your like area of expertise. So you fuck that up. Yeah. But you decide still to change rules and to change stuff that are, the rule set that's been there for a really long time, that you have no idea why is it like that, and you just decide because of you want to change the mechanics, but instead of changing the smokes themselves, you like change the rule set to just make them less powerful. There are so many things that are contradictory.
Yeah, exactly, and you're right, because everyone assumes the round timer had to do with the smoke issue. The thing that again I want to touch on, I was getting to it, and we all made good points here. It's your responsibility. I never said I loved coaching. I was kind of the same opinion as you. Obviously, came over from a different esport, but same thing. I was the in-game leader. That was part of the skill, right? It was, and you always felt great, like I outthought that guy. But Valve let it in. It was an evolution of the game. If they wanted it to not be part of the game, they should have done it at a very beginning rate. Because now, not only do they just have coaches, teams are paying coaches. Yeah, teams are relying on coaches. They've changed their complexion of their rosters to have coaches in game leading. And now you've just stripped potentially all those people. Okay, they're still around. I'll give it some time to see how this new timeout structure plays out. But you've definitely messed with a lot of
awful.
I don't think in terms of the change itself, it's just the consistency is the problem. The fact we didn't used to have coaches, that was always fine. But the fact you've allowed them in and get so deep, and we've had so many tournaments now with them present, and now they're still going to be there. Maybe we're not really making that clear enough. They're still involved. They're still analysts now. There's not the in-game leaders. The problem is you've allowed them to be that, and teams who are paying big money for these players or these coaches have now got to readdress everything. And then you could say, the major's not till January, right? But like we said before, every league has to adopt their actual system now to even have a possibility of being that major in January. That's certainly not going to be decided as of yet.
And I had a lot of people like tweeting and stuff like, but coaches will still be there for the timeout, for the halftime, or like they can roll out a game plan or anything. But I think that a lot of people don't understand how much work coaches that are in-game leaders actually do for those teams, right? They're literally standing there and they're helping with communication. They're even making call-outs so that the player doesn't have to, when there's a lot of action going on in his area of the map, so he can only be focused on his crosshair, his shooting, like throwing back grenades and stuff like that. He's the one maybe even calling rotations for players, saying like, okay, Flamey, now you go from B, now you rotate to A, let's stack over there, because he's listening to the comms all the time. And that's not something that anybody can do. That's like what in-game leaders of old used to do. And once you make those roster changes, relying on the coaches to be able to do that, you strip them out of the equation just for that, continuously being able to talk while the round is going on. That means someone else has to take the reins in that point.
And let's be real here. Everyone was saying, in real coaching, you don't have a coach in you the whole time. Bullshit. You're running down a soccer pitch or a football pitch. Coach is yelling at you the whole time. Hockey, they're yelling at you the whole time. They may not tell you, okay, you can't go left, go right.
It's not in the same level of intricacy in terms of the level of command, but they're definitely involved throughout the game.
So here's, and I don't want to even suggest changes to this because whatever, it's a whole other kettle of fish. Hockey, you take a shift, okay? Now, you don't have shifts in Counter-Strike per se, but you die early in a round. What if the coach could talk to you when you're dead still? Even that would be better because if you go to the bench in hockey, if I fuck up a play, first thing I get is an earful from the coach, or he's sitting right beside me with a whiteboard drawing out what I should do differently, right? He can still talk to me during the game. It's not like coaches are non-existent during the game and I can only talk to them at certain times. If the argument is there that they want it to be more like real sports, which I don't think it was, again, they wanted to be the 5 players on the server, but a lot of people were kind of alluding to that. Even that doesn't really stack up.
So final thoughts then on this whole subject as a whole. How do we go forward from this? We're going to see these tournaments pretty much changing as of yet. Do they have to start doing this online? Do they need to start dressed like we're watching ProLeague right now? So tournament we're casting. Do you think the teams are going to start just doing this straight away? They have to make this shift. Are we to see more lineup changes because of this?
Implement slowly, I think. You've got to get your coach and in-game leader aligned so that they can start transitioning the information that they need to and then practicing it.
Yeah.
In other words, take the first part of the season to say, I'm going to go silent this game, but here's what I want you to do ahead of time. And then maybe step in a few times and say, no, I meant this. And then as it goes throughout the season, they slowly have to pull back. Because if you go straight into LAN without ever actually trying that level of communication, you're screwed.
See, that's probably the only thing that you can do at that point. But the problem you have there is a lot of times, especially now in this meta, rarely will you be able to call something beforehand at the beginning of the round, a set strat, a set execute to counter what your opponent is doing, right? And you say, okay, guys, we're going to go for A smokes because they've been doing something else, and that is the perfect counter to that. And that's like when from the beginning to the end of the round, everyone knows what they're doing and you don't have to give any additional call outs. But the problem is that rarely happens. So most of the times it's either a default, and then let's say your opponent does something you don't expect. They maybe push B with 3 people, right? They do something a bit crazy, they get the early kill. And that's where an in-game leader really proves his worth, right? When things that happen on the fly, you need to make a split-second decision, you need to be aware of what's going on, you need to think of a counter really fast, and you need to relay that, in a expedited manner to your teammates. And that's where, if you don't have someone who was at least a bit able to in-game lead, if you solely have 5 players who are relied on their coach, that's where they're going to fall apart. And I feel that you simply can't have, you won't be able to have a lineup like that. You will need to have someone who is able to make those calls and those small adjustments in the middle of the round.
Well then.
Yeah, and I mean, just to go on back on all this, we talked about players tweeting and not banding together. We touched on that earlier in the show before the intermission. Still issues there. Hopefully something comes from this.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've gone pretty in-depth on all of this.
Yeah, I think we've been pretty stern with that. We've had some very serious topics. We've got some lighter-hearted stuff lined up.
Do we?
We do. So, Thomas, we've been setting up today. Matt speculated before. It's going to be a cheeky little Q&A we set up. It's the first time we've done this. So we were kind of one of those... I chose some questions...
For the record, by the way...
Yeah.
It's your birthday today.
It is my birthday.
We didn't bring that up. So
when you're 28 years old, birthdays become pretty non-eventful, I would say. It's just another day. You get a few messages on your phone from your mum, and that's...
I didn't even post on your Facebook wall.
No, you don't have to. Like, I am in the room with you. It doesn't really mean anything, does it?
To be fair, you were behind this wall today. Tom and I are sitting in here, and you were messaging us stuff that we needed to do.
I was naked in bed, so I'm not doing me to come in.
I don't care if you're naked.
No, well, I know you don't, but Tom might have a problem with that. Anyway, without further ado, should we bring on the first question, Matt?
Yes.
I'm going to throw it to the table, and we'll see what happens there. So I can't read that. Can you read it?
I can't. Definitely not.
Hold on.
Tom, maybe Tom can read it out to us. Should we give Tom?
Yeah, Tom can read them out. Go on.
Right. Will you try to make Drop the Bomb a big org which will cover events with their own casters, analysts, observers, and crew?
No. So the idea is it's a completely standalone project. We're doing it for content only. There's no agenda to this at all. It's literally Matt and I wanted to do a podcast. We're doing it. And that is literally the whole
Yeah,
thing. Right? There's no big plan here. We're not going to make a gaming org. We're not signing people. Janko's coming on as a guest. It's just it's a bit of fun, right? It's just a whole.
I mean, at this point, it's more of like trying not to get fired on your
Yeah,
podcast.
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Matt.
It would be it'd be fun. Let's say it could be like a Home Story Cup or Beyond the Summit. I'm sure is what they're thinking when they asked that question, because that's kind of what they did. But first and foremost, there's already so much going on in CS as it is. There's no space for it. We're not going to get funding enough to even compete with those sort of prize pools. So there's really not much. I mean, you could do a fun little pickup tournament here or there maybe, but no, we want to provide content. That's first and foremost, and bring more to the community in that sense.
There's definitely options and avenues we can explore to kind of make ourselves more money. We're looking to like merchandise and stuff like that, and kind of doing some more documentaries, obviously. But that's stuff we want to do. This is just something we're really passionate about. We're doing it in our spare time. We have got sponsors on board, but it has been heavily funded by Matt and I as well. Like, we want to do it. We've been wanting this ever since we kind of met. We kind of speculated. We have a lot of downtime in this casting job, so let's try and do something cool, and hopefully you guys are enjoying it, and we love your feedback and all that stuff, and it's purely just for fun. It's content, and it's to give us a platform to discuss our thoughts, right? That's
Yeah, right. Question 2, Tommy.
Do you think there'll be possibility that Disco Dotplan will join NIP? If so, who would he replace?
I'm just going to repeat it just in case. So, do you think there's a possibility? Obviously, they can see it on the screen too, but for people listening audio, you might not be watching. Do you think that there's a possibility Disco Dotplan could join NIP, and who would he replace? We saw him stand in this week. We're going to see him for a little bit more as Pith goes out on injury. Is there a possibility? I think the better question is there a need? I'm going to go yes.
This is opening a can of worms, isn't it? I would say he is probably the perfect substitution. If you were going to kick someone, there's one clear name that stands out that has been part of the lineup since day one, who has been superstar in the past and has been one of the best players in the team. And it's
How are you taking the longest possible
I am.
amount
I'm
of
making
time
sure I'm going.
before you say the name.
He does like
Go
a long
around.
banana. He does like a long banana.
And it's going to be Freiburg. Like he has had tournaments where he's been good, but he's never going to be the player who's going to be smashing through the glass ceiling and having those huge events that says, "Oh, this guy got the MVP." It's been a long time since we've seen him like even top the scoreboard for NIP. He always has a reasonable result. We've seen in Pro League, he has been playing pretty decently online as well. But I feel like if you really want to refresh our lineup and bring someone young blood in, someone who's super hungry, hasn't been jaded by the community or the poor results, the slump and stuff like that, he wants to prove himself. He's like the perfect person to step in right now as well. He can AWP to a world-class level. Obviously, that's been a role that's been dedicated to Forest for now. Pitt's been doing some of the secondary stuff as well, but you bring him in, he can AWP, he can actually bring some new ideas and some new innovations and stuff like that, actually give him some new perspective on the game, perhaps, from the lower echelons and the kind of the harder work they've been put in terms of like having to have that kind of play in their back pocket. I feel like that does make sense. And the answer to the question, do you think it's a possibility? I'd say yes, it's definitely a possibility.
Yep. He top fragged this week for them too.
Whether it's something that will happen, maybe not so sure. I feel like there's obviously, we talk about those organisations and contracts and stuff. He's part of Epsilon right now. There's definitely a window of opportunity there, but I would say it would be a good move. But whether it will happen, I would say.
Well, and the value in Epsilon, their contracts definitely, I don't know what they are, but they can't be as big. I mean, they're a newer team.
Yeah.
They did break into the top 20. But yeah, I mean, it's the other thing about Disco is that he was offered, I'll say it, TSM wanted him for North America, and he turned it down. He flat out just said, yeah, it wasn't even that they got that far in it. They just kind of inquired. And he said, no, I believe in Epsilon. I want to stick with Epsilon. I think we can get somewhere with them. So we'll see. I mean, NIP is a little bit different. It's in your own home country. It's a team you've likely looked up to. I don't know, Janko, you could definitely make thoughts on this.
I don't think there's, knowing how the NIP guys think and that they're reluctant to make roster changes, generally I feel that the need is not there yet. As I mentioned before, I think that they have other avenues to explore first before they need to make that roster change. But whether he could play, I'm not sure if he could, because if you look at it, I think one of the problems for NIP is that the core four of the players, they're not really willing to submit themselves to a new player who is going to be like the star of the team, right? They had that for a short time with Mikelele, and they ended up not wanting to play like that. That's the reason why he was removed from the team. They bring in Alu, who had to take a step back. Pith as well, now is a support player for the team, doing what needs to be done. So I think there's a mentality problem in that sense.
Do you think it's an ego problem that those guys were legends? They feel like they have to be? Because that's a good point. Mikelele, the last tournament he played with them was before Malmo, the last tournament NIP won, and he was the MVP. It was ASUS Assembly Winter 2015 after X Games.
I mean, whether it's an ego problem or whatever, I guess you could call it that, I feel.
Interesting.
All right, well, let's move on. We covered it. This is the next question coming in. Tom, can you read it out for us once more?
What was your biggest dream as a kid?
This is the nice
transition. See? I got you. The one time you got slipping, I got you.
There we go. So, Matt, what is this? Is something I know you've got to talk about. Try not to talk for too long.
What is it? Sorry, what was the question?
What were your dreams as you were growing up?
Dreams for me.
Can I open this one?
Yeah, if you've got something to go.
Yeah, I don't really have dreams.
I remember for starters, I wanted the bombs to stop falling from the sky.
Oh, jeez.
Light-hearted question, bit of fun. And
Yeah.
yeah, fair enough.
By the way,
Can't
thanks
look
for
at
that one, Moses.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh, that is brutal. Fair thing to dream for, though. Let's be honest.
I mean, come on.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. All right, so next question. That's dumb.
No,
Jokes aside.
Laid, speaking of bombs, laid a trump card on that one.
I mean,
That's-
it is called Drop the Bomb, so I came
true.
in as a guest.
Oddly
even
enough,
I
Cologne-
came in as a guest, even with that. So.
Even though I'm sure where you're from is in Belgrade is very close second maybe, but most bombed city in the world was Cologne during World War II, and that's where we started dropping bomb. So
guys, anyone going to give me a question?
moving
Matt,
swiftly on.
photographer, hockey player. That's what I wanted.
I know
Like,
that's what I
has
expected.
he got
How about
anything
you
like that?
first, Henry? I know you didn't have dreams. You locked yourself in a room.
No, I always wanted to do. My first love before gaming was always music, and I always wanted to be in a band. Always wanted to be the frontman.
I could see
I
that.
always wanted to do that whole thing. That was my vibe, and then I just never pursued it. That was something to my downfall. Something I regret tremendously, but I still love
To
music
be
to this
fair,
day.
Malmo, I would have called you a rock star. So.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
yeah,
what,
for sure.
that's when I felt like this is what it would have felt like had I ever
Vicarious.
pursued that sort of avenue.
You
So
were definitely
for me,
in the
that's
moment.
the kind of answer I was looking for, guys. But we got
Right.
Don't
okay.
care and
so
bombs.
for me, I think
Basketball player
If,
was for me.
if I'm honest to myself, looking back, because I put all my time into hockey, it would have been to be a pro hockey player. But the one thing that's kind of stuck with me throughout time was racing, and was in karting for a while. Was fairly successful in the Canadian rankings, but that doesn't mean anything. There's no system you can run through. In that, my brother was even better than I was, and same thing, he couldn't get anywhere with it, despite having some tests in Formula 2000 and stuff. So. I think racing would have been my sort of my teenage dream, but my childhood dream would have been playing the NHL.
Okay, perfect. That's what I wanted. There we go. We got there in the end.
Canada's
Right.
peaceful. I don't have to worry about things in the
Next,
sky.
next question, please, Thomas. What we got?
Is how do you get into the CSGO scene as an analyst or a caster?
So I gave this one because I think you guys have got quite interesting stories of how you got into it. So Matt, how did you get into CS:GO?
Yelling
as
and
well?
screaming at my computer like a crazy person, keeping my roommates awake.
So is this when you were casting online CS?
Yeah, so for me, what happened was my dad actually worked in radio, and I'll get to that in a minute. I'll loop it around. So I kind of always understood delivery and kind of presentation. He got away from radio fairly early on in my life just due to family, and it was requiring a bit of travel and stuff he didn't want to do. But as I was playing Call of Duty, I knew people did shoutcast, and this is another thing. I think shoutcasters in the history, those the original pioneers of it, are as much responsible for the growth of esports as anyone, including the players, because they pitched it, they sold it. If anything was going to make it look legitimate from an outsider, it was something to announce it, make it exciting, and explain it to people. So I kind of always listened to shoutcasts, and when I was playing COD, we were playing in a pug. I think some people know this story. I was in game leading, no one was listening, we were losing, and I just started shoutcasting myself as I was playing, and people were like, "You're actually not bad at that." And then I kind of pursued it, not seriously, switched to tribes, realized the tribe scene had a severe lack for casters, which I find quite interesting because ZP is now one of the bigger Overwatch casters and he played tribes with me. But there was a severe lack of casters. Decided I would help out there as much as I could. Did some NASL stuff because my team failed to qualify. I don't want to talk about it. And then when I switched to CS, I switched strictly to cast. I was actually ready to quit gaming altogether. Walk away from it, just decided that I wanted to put more effort into photography, that I was spending too much time on games and it wasn't really financially viable at that point in time. So just as I was leaving, someone asked me to do a charity LAN. From there, it kind of went that charity LAN, ETS, ESCA, and then X Games, so on and so forth.
Yanko, obviously you were a player before this all happens, and CSGO, you were actually in a relevant team as well. You went into observing after that. So how did you get from the transition of being an observer to where you are now, like with the leading analyst?
Yeah, well, pretty much after I started doing events and kind of got to meet the talent as well, I felt that there was a niche on the desk, pretty much, that there was room for someone to fill it, pretty much. Then it was a long road of convincing people like that, to give me a shot and to try and do that, and talking with more and more with other like peers, with Anders, Samuel, Petar as well from HLTV, talking about CS. Yeah. Mostly they figured, oh, this guy actually maybe knows a thing or two. So I got a couple of recommendations, and it was actually Mark from DreamHack who gave me the first chance in Stockholm for the Cluj qualifiers.
Right. First time I was hosting too. That must have been so hard for you.
Yeah, it was. I mean, comparing like those first couple of events to now, it's a huge difference. But yeah, so I started doing a couple of events late last year, and then from this year it's been like
what a road it's been there, like how quickly it's kind of escalated in terms of going from observer of Cologne 2015 and then to being the analyst, one of the lead analysts for every single game at the very same event the next year. So that's kind of a crazy road. That's kind of what I wanted to question, just to cover me. Like I never even saw myself as a caster. I still don't really to this day. I was a CS Source player, and I quit playing towards the end of Source in like 2011. Went to go get a real job. I did that for 5 years. I was an event manager in London. And then Richard Lewis, we always used to talk about all the stories back in the day, and he was still quite involved in esports as a whole. He was casting some like online leagues for dirt money. Like back then, like if you were a caster, you're barely getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
Like we used to do he asked me to come and help him out, do some colour casting with him, basically. So we actually used to have a lot of fun. I used to think we did a really wicked job. We used to do it for like 50 quid a week, I think it was. Like we'd host these online cups at Dignitas, and we'd just be the casters. They needed someone to do it. We did a couple of those, and then there's like, oh yeah, there's actually some chances you actually do something with this. I was like, oh mate, I'm too busy. I can't dedicate any time to it. And then I think it was Gfinity. They got in contact and they asked me to do one of their smaller events. I can't remember which one it was.
It was. I do remember the event. I remember watching it.
It must have been G3. It must have been. That was actually the first time they did the Olympic Copper Box. That's the first LAN I think I ever did.
Yeah.
And I did. Okay, I'm sorry. I did my series and stuff before. I did some really small UK stuff. And the first big event I did was a G3 Gfinity thing. I got to cast like Tosspot and people like that, and like all. And I don't think Semler was at that one, but I got to cast Semler the one after. And like the kind of. There was no colour commentators back there. There was no pro players doing what I was doing. And being an English-speaking, like first language, it was a great window. And having like the English accent, people seemed to like that. And like being an ex-player for so long, I was the in-game lead. I had a good analysis of the strategies, and it seemed to kind of be a great asset to be. There was a lot of play-by-play casters when they were colour guys. So to answer the question, how do you get into it? All of our stories like has a lot of esports backgrounds, either being professional players or having lucky breaks and stuff like that. There's no real path you can say, oh, do this and you can get into it. You've heard our stories, but ultimately it's a lot about who you know. Like in mine and Janko's case, you have to have the connections.
A lot of blowjobs, of course.
Well, some more than others.
It's past your bedtime, Janko. You're getting more and more savage.
So like, I get asked this question at events, especially when I'm like doing signing gigs, and people ask, oh, how do I become this? It's all about just, if you really, really want it, you're going to have to actually go and work for it. You have to start casting your bedroom, doing what Matt did, grinding it out, get noticed. Like you give the advice, like say, download the demo and cast it by yourself, right? Yeah.
So first and foremost, to conclude, like kind of follow up on what you're saying. My rise when I did get my break was quite quick, from X Games to majors, and the last 18, 19, 20 months have been pretty successful in that sense, but you just have to put in the time. My mom always tells people when like people in the town ask, oh, how do you get into that? Well, he volunteered for 2 years. I did basically volunteer. And even like I said, my dad was in radio. He went from being like, stop, get out of your room. Like, why are you yelling at your computer? To being like, oh, we got to work on your vocal delivery and breathing with your diaphragm. And like, it kind of changes. But yeah, so one of the things I do recommend though to improve the skill is, so let's say Navi and Astralis played last night in Pro League. You didn't get a chance to watch the game live. Download the demo first. Cast the demo without having heard us, because then you won't have a bias, you won't have an expectation. Then compare your cast to us. And like, if you're focusing on play-by-play, don't worry about filling in all the blanks and doing the color roll as well. Just focus on hype and building up around and some slowest periods. And if you're doing color, kind of look at your breakdown and compare
the thing
it
is,
to it doesn't have to be us, Andrew Semler, whoever you like, James and DDK.
The thing is, just to reiterate the point, if you're someone like Matt, who's extremely talented at this thing, you could like slot into any esport. Like that's amazing. That's a great asset to have, and not many people can learn that stuff. You're born with that, right? Like, you have to have some skills within you that actually allow you to.
That's some good genes.
Yeah, exactly, right. And someone like me, I could never cast another game. Like the only reason I'm good at what I do is because I played CS for so long and I understand the game really well, and I can deliver it in a way that I've got quite a good vocabulary. I can just kind of deliver it quite quickly and pass it back to you, right? So, so if you're someone like Matt and you're extremely talented, definitely pursue it and then try and use your talent to the best of your advantage. If you're someone like me who just wants to get into it, give it a go, you feel like you know the game enough, I hate to be blunt, but it's probably not going to happen for you. Unless you have some sort of rich history as a top-level player, or you actually have some experience of playing in big tournaments and anything like that, maybe you have a chance. But if you're someone who just wants to be a color caster, I would say try and avoid that route. It's going to be a wasted opportunity at the end of the day. You put a lot of time in and probably not get a reward for it. So there's two different arguments for that. Mine is more very circumstantial, where I was just in the right place at the right time and had the experience. So I know it's smashing some dreams there, but you have to give some real talk as well, right?
Yeah, totally.
I don't know about you. I think I have close to 10,000 hours in CS:GO in 1.6 combined. So combined. So it's
Still
there's a lot of time going into the game to be able to do like the color stuff. But for the play-by-play stuff, of course, you need to practice that as well, the things that Matt mentioned. But in the end, it comes down to having a good voice and having a good personality, in the sense that being able to hype up stuff and make it interesting for the viewers.
Okay, I think we have one more question.
Yeah, two more. Are there?
Two more
I think
questions.
we might have one. Oh, one more. Okay, Tom's on it.
This one is more about Henry.
This might not work now, since I've already done that stuff.
What is it?
What was the question?
How long did you play CS and what role did you play?
How long did you play CS and what role? So Henry picked these questions, and I think he just wanted to pick this one to be self-glorifying, but because it's his birthday, we'll allow
Exactly,
this
it's
to
my
happen.
birthday. I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, you go ahead.
How long have I played CS for? I played CS since. Funny enough, my entrance to CS wasn't through the traditional means. Like I was aware of 1.6. I played on LAN cafes and stuff like that, but I didn't get the internet until maybe 2003, like where I lived. So actually, I loved Counter-Strike. I loved playing it in the LAN cafes, right? But the internet arrived in 2003 when I was maybe 15, 16, and Condition Zero came out the same day that the internet arrived. So I went to the stores and I go buy Counter-Strike. They're like, can I buy Counter-Strike? They're like, yeah, this new one just came out today. You could get this one 100%. I was like, I didn't know. I was like, well, it's a new version of the game. That's how they work. You get the new one. So I went home and played that, and then played that for ages and ages, and then became the top team in that game after a year. Then
Out of the
Source
4
came
teams that played it.
It was actually pretty massive in terms of the competitive community. It was crazy. And then Source came out, and I was probably known as one of the best players in CZ in terms of the UK scene. And then I went to Source, and that's when I really kind of got a real understanding of CS Source. That was a game where all the kind of the drop-offs from 1.6, the guys didn't necessarily make it. Like they came over to Source to have this fresh start, right? And we all started on the same level playing field. And you had this all of a sudden I wasn't the best anymore. I was having to play with people that were much better than me to kind of learn how to play the game. Did that for a long, long time, and then eventually got into the best teams in Europe and the best teams in the world. We were in the CGS. We flew all over Europe and every single tournament, getting regular podium placements and stuff like that. So I would say from 2003 to 2011, that's when I kind of stopped playing. I did have a real small dabble with CSGO. This is when I was talking about I was doing the career stuff as well. It's like 2 full-time jobs. If you're doing a 9 to 5, or even longer in my case, a job I had, and coming back and then having to do 8 hours team prac as well, you're never going to be a world-class player. It's never going to happen. You're not going to be the same level as where you were when you were a student and all that stuff. So I played in some really ropey UK teams. I actually played in one team with Steel as well in Dignitas lineup. We had 3 UK guys and 4 UK guys, and Steel came over. He lived in the UK at that point. So if you didn't know that, it's a bit of trivia for you. Nothing ever happened to that team. We went to one event and came second. It was horrible, but it was just it was a good time. It was a good laugh. And after that, I thought I'm never going to be good as what I was. And
just walk away.
Walk away, and before you embarrass yourself, So that's why I left it. So that's it in a nutshell. Richard Lewis did do a video on me called "Who the fuck is Henry G?" If you want to find out more, it's
people are still wondering.
Exactly.
Look, we've gone. We always aim for an hour and 15 minutes to an hour and a half. We've gone to 2 hours again this show, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that. We covered a lot of good ground, and partly due to the fact that Janko was here. Thank you as always for lending us your mind.
No problem.
It was awesome. So that said, this week we did do a lot of in-depth stuff. Next week we're gonna have something planned. We're not gonna tell you exactly what it is, but half of us will be heading off to Sweden to do some feature presentations. So take a gamble at what you think we might be up to. With that said, guys, thanks so much for tuning in again. Thanks to Space Jam, Darkin, and of course, Fnatic. Remember, we do have the Flick giveaway going on, and I'm glad, Henry G, you finally smell good again.
It's good, right? Got the
you
Space
actually
Jam.
sprung up the entire ESL studios with that. That stuff I know when you.
I ran out, right? So I used a brand that wasn't Space Jam, and everyone could tell straight away. So it normally smells lovely, and now it smells like dog shit.
It was absolutely brutal.
Now we just got a shipment today. We've got 50 bottles arrived, so I think we'll be absolutely fine going forward. So so thank you very much to those guys. Thank you everyone that tuned in, and please, if you can just do anything you can to share the show, retweet everything we do, follow the Twitter accounts, and we'll be back again next week. To the fingers of our show, there's no real set schedule to it. It's going to happen once a week, every week, but we just keep following our social media.
Yeah, we kind of have to jump around based on ProLeague. Tomorrow night there's ProLeague, we're there, we can't do this. So that's why we move it.
We're back again next week, so we don't have a cool sign-off phrase yet. We need to work off that. I need something after all that.
And on that bombshell,
yeah,
just go full Jeremy Clarkson.
That's going to be it. So thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.
gamers. We are one. We are Darken.
We are Dark.
Bomb has been planted.
Kenny S is stuck in the site finding wall. That's brilliant. And Kenny S again up close. Oh my goodness, Kenny S.
Everyone chasing down, gets a trap, and the knife comes in. Simple, of course, stabs him straight in the chest.
So aggressive blade. Dennis catches him off. That's ungodly from Dennis.
Oh my God, that awareness, the timing works out perfectly. Just in time.